And now, holy shit, folks.
I always remind people, I am suspended for life for minor hockey.
It's my duty to please the booty.
Did you catch a rattlesnake and then drive home with it in your car holding it the whole time?
Yep.
Phil only drinks Coke. He doesn't drink water. I'll fucking quit.
Fugazis.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 422 of Spittin Chiclets, presented by Pink Whitney from our friends at New Amsterdam Vodka here in the Barstool Sports podcast family. What's going on, everybody? We had a slobber knocker of a weekend here in Boston. Our live show, the Winter Classic, raising hell all over the city. Let's check in with the fellas first. The Wit Dogs to my left. We'll go to him first for a change. How you feeling, my man?
I feel horrendous right now, just horrible. The voice isn't as bad as I maybe thought last night that I would wake up with. So still, that's, I guess, a win. But yeah, I feel horrendous. But it was a great weekend. I mean, very special for, I would say, maybe a little bit more special for G, me, and you being from here and having so many family and friends at the live show and getting to experience the outdoor game with all of them. It was just really cool after all the years of us traveling to every Winter Classic to have it be back home in Boston, and it was great. So I can't believe everything went as smoothly as it did. Shout out G. Shout out everyone behind the scenes. But yeah, I'm here. I'm ready to podcast. I'm at like 70%.
Whit, I got to thank you. Probably the best New Year's Eve I've ever had, chilling with your Boston friends at your house. You threw an awesome party. Probably will never get the sight of memes being fed lobster by your wife out of my brain.
Memes has taken over this city like no one ever before him. It's like David Ortiz, Bobby Orr, and memes. The guy shows up to my house and all my friends just heard him say, "Hey, Bree, is that lobster you're cooking?" And they were like, "Who is this guy?" And he had his NASCAR jacket on and his mullet and his mustache. I love him to death. My friends love him to death. Keith Yandel feels like he's known him forever. The only problem is, and maybe on the YouTube version of this show right now, you could throw up the picture of his goddamn thumb. That is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
I have not seen his thumb yet.
Who called out his thumb? Was it Jans?
Dude, I'm
probably
keep talking about it. Jans goes, "That's from memeing so much." But I guess like the problem is, I think he got slashed in men's league, so it's something that he's gonna have to get looked at by the doctor. But yeah, my wife basically spoon fed him lobster for an hour and a half, and then he had other wives rubbing his back. He's living. It's memes' world, and we're all living in it.
Shit, I wish I knew the lobster was there. I would have came down for me.
Best part of that night. I know you're a recent Georgia football fan.
8 years, 7 years. Yeah, not too recent, but somewhat, yeah.
That football game was the best football game I've ever watched in my entire life.
Both games were out of this world entertaining, and I think over the past, 7, 8 years of the college football playoff, the semifinals have been pretty brutal overall.
Yep.
Those two games were unreal. The Georgia game, I mean, what an insane comeback. I had a money line. I live bet him 2 or 3 times throughout the game. Made an absolute boatload, but they had no business winning. You called it. We had about 30 guys there watching. You called it maybe the best timeout a coach has ever taken in football history when Kirby decided to just drop that timeout right before the fake punt. So I don't know. A lot of people might not have seen the game. Maybe all you Canadians up there weren't watching, but we had a time watching, and now Georgia gets to take on TCU. They're going to pound them.
No, they've been busting out the lube, and they've been cranking themselves to Connor Bedard at the World Junior. This kid is a mutant. Hey, Colby, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good to be here.
By the way, we're joined by Colby and Merles, the Chiclets Game Notes boys. They were on the Boston trip with us. They helped us out at the live show. I've never seen a guy play villain quite like Colby Armstrong did coming out in that Pittsburgh Penguins jersey. I'm surprised you didn't get shanked here. But I do want to – were you going to talk about Connor Bedard?
I was going to maybe touch on the ball dropping. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
The funniest thing ever is like – first of all, we do like a kid countdown, which I never knew about.
Genius.
Which is genius.
Yeah,
everyone
was at about, what,
Chiclets
10?
fans.
Anybody with kids out there who typically allow them to wait up till 12 p.m., listen to what Colby's about to
Yeah,
tell you.
these Wits, like all his buddies and their wives were like, "We're going to do a kids countdown here in like 10 minutes." I'm like, "What's that?" As I'm like mixing another drink. And she told me what it was, your wife. I'm like, "That's the greatest thing ever." They do like a fake countdown at like 10 o'clock or like 9:30 and then piece the kids off to bed. See you later. And it's like they thought they had New Year's.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
like when I changed the clocks at 5 o'clock to 7, like random nights in the winter. I'm like, time for bed. They're like, what the hell? But yeah, no, we had to have the kids at least celebrate and go nuts. But then the fact that the ball drop was as the kick.
The ball drop was literally, I think it was like Poos Puzo was like, he was like, guys, 3, 2. He had like his phone out because we were watching this last kick to win or lose the game. And the guy misses right at the very end. And right when he kicked it, it was
incredible. It actually, I think it hit 0 midnight 2023 as he like made contact with the ball. So the wives were like, are we gonna throw on like Ryan Seacrest doing the countdown? We're like, no. Woof, 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 woof. Sick 'em, go Dogs.
The craziest thing was because it was like an explosion, like New Year's happened. But it was just degenerate dads hugging each other.
That was Whit making it rain with his cash-did one on that fucking live betting.
I thought that was amazing too. Yeah, the New Year's at your house with your kids, your family, your friends.
That feels like 3 weeks
amazing.
ago.
And then Bedard last night, insane what he's been doing. Broke a record but like the move he scored. My wife sent a video of my kid. He was like almost crying because he scored an OT. He thinks he's so sick, but then he did the heartbreaker, Sally.
He did the heartbreaker.
Oh yeah,
the old Patrick
Yeah.
Kane. Well, there was a bit of a panic button being hit after that first game against. How do you say it? Do I got to say Chechnya?
Chechnya.
Czechia?
Some
Chechnya is like Russia or something.
Czechia.
Well, I don't know who the
Russian.
fuck I'm going to
Czechia. Just say
offend by
Czech
saying it the
Republic.
wrong way these days because it's pretty much impossible to dodge at. But they got worked in that first game, and a little bit too much individual bullshit for Canada. But it seems like they're back on their way to winning. And
I'm not talking World Juniors right now.
Okay,
though.
sorry.
What's going on?
No,
here?
Bedard's sick.
Settle
Yeah,
down
that's
with
a page
Bedard and
12
World
over here.
Junior talk. We just started 2 seconds ago.
Well, we're not from Boston.
I'm actually.
I just wanted to get my fucking Team Canada plug in there.
I'm actually more interested because you crushed it yesterday, TNT. Long day. It looked like back and forth from the cool studio, though, out in center field. But what the hell happened at the end of the game with Marchand? Did you have to apologize for something?
No, I fake apologized.
Oh, okay. I was like, what is going on?
No. I was just joking about chirping his
Okay.
snout pregame because I asked him if he was planning on putting any eye block on his nose, considering the shine that was coming off of it. And then I told him not to lick anybody's face because it'd get stuck to it with the cold. So we just had a little fun banter going back and forth. But and then after the game, Jans was on the panel because he's been joining TNT broadcast throughout the season. So they brought him up after the game, and as Marshy was coming to the stage, like he lifted like 6 kids over to bring him over. So he's like, "Oh, we were just fucking around. We're like, oh, pull out games week. Yeah, get him a Cialis sponsorship. Just this guy's just going to the workbench." So Marshy came on though, man, and he's a very articulate guy, very intelligent. Obviously, he has a complete pulse as to what's been going on with this Boston organization, and he just did a great job articulating what this team's all about, their philosophy, and really how close they are. Jans touched on it too. He's like, even when they're down in games now, like they were going to the locker room second intermission, like no panic, everybody's still chilling. They're like, we know we got this.
Bruins go down 1 or 2-0, immediately live bet them.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna last this whole year, but it's like no matter what, they force overtime.
Yeah, but I mean, we should probably pump the NHL's tires. Like, what an event, man! They think of everything as far as the Winter Classic's concerned. They had Sam Hunt pumping in the pregame, little country music. It was a party.
And he gets the girls going.
Oh yeah, they were just jamming themselves in the front row to him. And then that was like down the street. And then first intermission, they had the Black Keys. That was probably the best.
I like the Black Keys.
Unbelievable.
I like
and
the
it
Black
was
Keys.
it was nice because they set up the stage to where I would imagine that you would consider the outfield over there probably the worst seating. Of anywhere you're sitting at because sometimes you're in that like the low section, you can't really see the ice much.
Can't see it at all.
But those
see it at
fans
all.
get treated with the live show from the Black Keys. They had the fireworks going, so everybody really gets to experience something and get the benefit of the Winter Classic.
Even before, sorry, it was like Mardi Gras out there. It was a party
Oh
on
my
those streets
God.
of Boston like I have never seen.
Morales
It
goes,
was
"What the hell's going
amazing.
on here?"
Yeah, oh wow.
It was a gong show. It was a gong
it
show.
was great.
People like the game on thing to the street to kids. It was.
I think
gong
too
show.
the complaint, and we say this every year now, but like people at home watching whatever, they're like, "Oh, another Winter Classic." It's solely for the people at the game. We've kind of made that clear, and that's why they do such a good job. And then being at the game and seeing Zdeno Chara out there with Johnny Busick and Bobby Orr, and just to like get to witness the history of the Bruins involved, and Jason Varitek, the captain of those Red Sox teams, he comes out. It was like, and the players were lined up along like kind of a mini ice hockey baseball field type rink setup. It was an unreal setting for the game. I thought the way the weather was, Fenway Park looked beautiful.
Perfect.
And the day was just perfect. I mean, we dealt last year. Minnesota had a great one with St. Louis, but it was -10. It was like 55 degrees yesterday.
Like
it was
perfect.
just perfect out. So, yeah, I guess also back to the live show quick. Got to shout out RA, guys. I mean, this guy, his wardrobe's been chirped here or there along the lines of this podcast. This dude looked like a fucking snack, as the kids say, when he got out on stage. I think a brand new tailored suit for the ceremony or for the show.
I've worn it once or twice before, but definitely tailor-made. Like
Good
custom
for
fit,
you,
yeah.
RA.
Treated
Probably
myself.
the biggest pop, too, in terms of announcements.
Yep.
I think it was smart, RA. We're like, well, RA, you end up going last as the announcement. Boom, the place exploded for you. So you must have been fired up with all your family and friends there.
Honestly, probably one of the top 3 special nights of my life. Like,
He
I
did
yeah.
basically, it was like accepting an Academy Award when he got on stage.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Well, you
know,
look so good, though. You looked so good.
I,
in the
I
suit.
walked down the lobby and like
I didn't even like recognize
I saw you. I was like, what the
You was
fuck?
outside hooting and hollering. I thought like Bo Derek was behind me or something. I was like, holy shit. Now, yeah, it was like, fuck it. I always say on the show, I look good when I need to or when I have to. And I hope my whole family, all my boys, fucking gal friends there, I'm like, I got to look good tonight. And yeah, the pop was insane. I didn't have any plan, any reaction. I just gave the fucking... Well, I put the arms up. My wife's like, you look like Richard Nixon up there. I was like, thanks, honey. But it was very special. And like my parents there, my old man's 78. He didn't go out much. I said, Dad, come on out for this one. And, I knew I was going to give him a little tribute. And then I kind of got, fired up there and got everyone to give my parents a standing O. Because like I said, without them, I don't become a hockey fan. And, who the hell knows how the rest of my life plays out. So, yeah, very special night. And then to see everybody after, then back to local. It was just, a very
Well, you told the
special
story on stage. Your first ever Bruins game was when you were in your mom's womb.
Yeah, games 1, 2, and 5 for the 72 Cup. I mean, she was literally late 9 months out to here, and I was born like 2 weeks after. And like I just there that whole fucking season. Oh, and then the next day I get up and I got a shitload of texts from my buddies and family stuff. And there's one from my mom, and it's like no text. It's just a picture of you and Biz. I was like, oh no. I was like,
Hey, I'm not.
no.
Oh, Jesus.
I was like,
I have
no.
a confession to make.
Oh, no.
I was like, I already had one stepdad. I don't need Biz to be my second.
Me and RA's mom are seeing each other. We've made it Facebook official.
Shit.
RA,
Shit, this podcast is
I'm
gonna
your
change.
father.
Yeah, dude, like a week ago, she's like, "Can you ask Biz where he got that blue sweater he has on all the time?"
That's the one I always ask
I was
about.
like, she's checking out your fucking clothes a couple weeks ago, and she sent me the picture, so I don't know. I got to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we've been texting.
Yeah, I have a few of my family members were feeling it for you, Biz.
I actually got her. I got her the female version of it for her birthday. So just don't tell her. Don't waste.
It's a thong.
Well, that's like you said when I came out, double middle fingers in a Penguins jersey.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I had to hide behind RA like the rest of the night so I don't get stabbed because he's like, buddy, he knew everybody in the neighborhood.
I got a kick out of it, though, because in Pittsburgh,
blew their
our
mind.
first live show, Army was like kind of number one there. I mean,
Yep.
he's like, he lives in Pittsburgh, he had all these family and friends there, and then he comes out with the double middle bird. I'm like, this guy has no clue the
Yeah.
enemy that he just
Oh, it's
made
getting
in the
booed
crowd.
so hard.
You
I
could
started wilting so fast as soon as I sat down. And I looked at, good thing I was sitting next to G. G looks at me and goes, keep it going. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Gotta play the villain card.
The
You have
villain
to.
card, yeah.
You have to.
I thought I totally blew their brains up, though, a little bit because I came out in a Pens jersey double-fingered. Then I turned around, and it was a Witt jersey.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
they were
yeah.
like, oh, we hate him, but, like, we like Witt. What the... They started to just short-circuit.
Another guy we had come out. Well, obviously Yans was here. Brendan Walsh.
Oh, what a beauty.
Walshy, just classic Walshy stories. He told the legendary Brophy coffee in the face story, which I believe we've turned into a cartoon after the first time he told it. He also reminded us, or maybe G on stage, that after that Brendan Walsh interview, he's been on once, correct?
Yep.
So after that interview, that's when basically G was sitting there watching it and seeing the way he told the story and like how into it he got and how we're laughing, and that made him decide that we were going to film everything we ever did moving forward with interviews and podcasts.
Well,
So I
because
didn't-
when he was going crazy with his hands, I turned my laptop camera on and I start filming it with my laptop camera, which was just ass quality. So I'm like, fuck, we need camera guys. We need to have this always filmed so we can put out the social clips and eventually now do the YouTube pods.
Such a cool connection, right? With that moment.
oh yeah.
He made Merle's pay his rent and sign the mortgage. which we were laughing about still. Like we saw him at
Well, okay, because these people aren't going to see. You can go with a backstory, Merles.
Yeah, so it was first year pro, and I don't know what I'm doing, and everybody's linking up roommates, and this guy, hey, Merles, come here. We're going to go check out this house over here. And he talks me into renting this, like, 7-bedroom house with him. And
You'd never met this guy other than training camp.
Just at camp. Like, we're a week into camp.
He just speared Merle's like an hour before this.
And, like, I didn't really have a choice. Like, he just completely muscled me into this, and we go over, we rent this beautiful house, and then he gets traded, like, 3 weeks later, and I get stuck paying the rent on this thing by myself all year. It was unbelievable.
Hey, didn't he get traded? He ended up, I think, telling the story on stage about how he basically baseball swung a guy in the face and then speared him with the broken part of the stick, and how he went to the room and he was all animated.
He's like, that wasn't that bad, right, guys? And they're like,
No, well, he got kicked out and he went into the locker room halfway through, so like with a 10-minute mark. And the way he said it on stage, he goes, so these guys start coming in, and like the first couple guys in the room were Brooks Orpik, Rob Scuderi, and they just finished killing a 37-minute power play. And they're like, and all Walsh cares about is playing lawyer, being like, hey, that was that guy's fault, right?
You guys saw that, right?
That wasn't that bad. And Orpik and Scuds are like, dude, get the fuck out of my face. And then he ends up going, I think who was the coach at the time?
Glenn Patrick.
Glenn Patrick. And then I think he called them in the office during that intermission. Glenn's a pretty calm guy, and he's just tapping his desk with his fingers. And Walshy's like, hey, like, I don't think I'm getting games for that, right? And he's like, Walshy, he goes, you might be playing hockey again, but you ain't going to be playing here. And then they ended up fucking trading him because he got like a 10 or 15 game sussy. So he tells the story way better. We need round 2 of Brennan Walsh, and we will have the cameras on him because the most animated storyteller of all time. The hot lava. The hot lava.
Try playing with the guy. Like, try living with the guy. I got to play with him. You got to play with him, live with him. The connection is awesome, and for him to be a Boston guy, and he has a like Boston super accent too. He's so charismatic and cool.
Did you already mention the part that he put your name on that lease, so you were stuck with
He made him sign the lease
the rest of the year with it.
Okay.
He's like, Merles, you just sign it. I'll pay you on the side. And then Minahan too. Shout out Kirk Minahan.
Yeah.
He hosted the show. He did a great job. Went out there. It was hilarious. He's like, I don't know if you guys know me, but with my ego, this is very hard that this show isn't entirely about me. But no, we appreciate him coming on. He did a great job. So it was a blast to have everyone together. Yans was his usual hilarious self.
Yep.
I mean, I think Yans made even more jokes to just Merle's off the microphone.
I saw him whispering in his ear like the whole time. Like, and
I had my own live show there with him. He was unbelievable, just chirping everybody.
Oh yeah, he loves the under his breath one-liners, and then as you're the guy telling the story, you're like insecure. You're like, "What are you chirping me about, Yance? You fucker!"
You know he's chirping you.
Yeah,
too.
he's just giving it.
Oh,
to
the
you.
one time when I was getting booed the whole time, and then you like saved me because you called out Biz for not picking Boston to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I
and then
felt so bad for
him and I were
Army.
on the couch like you two. They want to just burn our couch.
I go, yeah, throw
It was
that
like-
coach in the incinerator.
I was like, thank God you
That's
did
why
that.
everybody's so nice to me in Boston. I reverse mushed them. They're gonna
Yep.
fucking win the
Yep.
cup because of
Yep.
me. I'll basically do like I did to Colorado or Tampa the year before.
2 Southern teams.
I guess we should also thank the Wilbur Theater. Thank everybody who came to the live show. Our fans,
Amazing.
man, you guys are hardcore. You're rapid. We love you guys, and we want to keep doing these things and putting on shows so we can see you guys in the flesh. And we're never going to air these shows on our YouTube channel, right?
We might.
Maybe down the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll
I
see.
like that
Yeah.
it's.
I
I
like
like,
the
that it's
exclusivity.
special for the people who are there. Sorry to everyone listening who wants to see it.
Oh,
but
my
it's
God.
kind of like you got to get tickets to see this stuff.
I just
go down.
remembered one thing I did. I was throwing a pink Whitney nip to a guy, and you know how we have like monitors and like sound things in front of us? He was down low enough that like I underhand tossed him that like hid behind the monitor just enough. Good thing he was wearing glasses, just like clinked him right in the eye. I was like, oh my God, so sorry. He's like, cool. Then he drank it. So I was like, oh my God.
All right, before we go any further, we have a few words from our great friends at Pink Whitney and New Amsterdam Vodka. Biz, the stuff was flowing like lava this weekend between Granelli on stage and the room here. I mean, what more can we say about Pink Whitney, Biz?
It gives you a nice little buzz. It's great on the golf course. That's pretty much how it was created, right, the Wit Dog?
Oh, it's perfect any time of year. I know I've mentioned on the golf course and in summer, but this weekend proves it's a winter drink as well. People are ringing in the new year with Pink Whitney. We had so many messages, so many pictures being sent, and people were going nuts at the live show, just chucking out nips to them, giving them a chance just as it hits your lips. It's so good. So Pink Whitney is where it's at. Celebrate any special occasion by getting involved with the pink.
Order a shot of Pink Whitney at your local bar and enjoy.
One cool moment to end off the live show discussion. Jake Tebow was there.
Yeah.
And you gave, you spoke on the mic very heartfelt, and I think him and his family really appreciated it.
Yeah, it's like Jake says, a shitty way to become pals with somebody, but we've really become pals. We text all the time. He's just such a great kid, and when I met his family when he was down Spalding and Charlestown, I walk in and I've never been in a situation like that before, meeting a kid in that situation. I was kind of nervous, and right when I walk in, his dad's like, beer or wine. I was like, we click with the family right away. I've been to their house a couple times, and it was great to get those guys there. And my dad wanted to meet him, and he got to meet my old man. And it made the special night even more special to have the Tebows.
And for those who are listening who don't know the backstory, Jake Tebow, he was paralyzed playing in a hockey game.
Yeah, Milton Academy last year. Yeah, from the waist down, and the kid, he said to his I think his headmaster, "I'm going to walk at graduation." And less than a year later, we had the video. He stood up and put the brace on. And he fucking walked. It was the hardest thing he ever did, and it made me so proud. And like I said, he's a great kid from a great family, and I'm happy to call them friends.
He's amazing. I got to meet him too at our events. Amazing family, amazing guy. Now I text with him too.
Yeah,
just a great guy. He fit in so easy. It was so easy, like his family and everything. Yeah. There's such great people. I got to meet so many great people here in Boston. It's been a great trip.
Yeah.
Also, thanks to Game On and Local, Shawzy took care of us. At
yes,
Local,
my boy Shawzy at Local. That place was buzzing.
And I saw a couple guys from down the street, Ricky Bell, Michael Bivens, and Ronnie DeVoe. Biv DeVoe crushed the national anthem with Boston Pubs yesterday. The old BBD New Edition guys got to shout them out.
They sounded great.
They did sound great. It was great to have those guys there. And also, too, so many fans from around the world. I mean, I talked to people from Scotland, England. They came from Vancouver, all over. And, hockey fans are the best. So awesome weekend, awesome time, and thanks to everybody who came. It was epic stuff.
And quickly about the outdoor situation next year, Seattle.
Oh,
that's a fucking great place to have it. And then, of course, with the inaugural season, or not the inaugural season,
who they playing?
Vegas, the last two franchises.
What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Sure.
Outdoor.
What are the new teams called?
I'm just going to shut up.
Yeah. So we might have to get the PJ for that one if we're going to fly out to that
Oh,
one
my
next
God,
year.
all right. Jesus. Just worry about packing a suit,
Expansion, Biz? Expansion?
Expansion, thank you. The expansion
job,
teams.
Army.
Yeah,
I went to my guy Murr here. He had a college guy.
All right,
Game
so
notes guy.
that wrap it up for the Boston trip, boys. Any final notes?
I don't know. Producer G, what do you
G,
think, buddy?
Just feel lucky. I mean, I think that's kind of, they said it really, being from Boston, just being able to go back and do that in front of your friends and family, it just really made me feel lucky and made me feel
you were
thankful.
fucking crying the rest of the night because how emotional you were about the whole experience.
Was I really?
No, like you were.
Again, bunch of Pink Whitney nips.
Could have been the wolf, too.
Yeah, don't remember the second half of that night. But again, thankful for all the fans, thankful that I could do it in front of my friends and family, and thankful for you guys for giving me this life. Because when I'm sitting up there, I look, it's NHL player, NHL player, NHL player, NHL player, R.A. Grinelli. And I'm like, what am I doing up here? So just super thankful.
No, we said it at the show, buddy. We pumped your tires. Everything that happens behind the scenes
everything
that goes unseen. Social media, putting all the posts out, like organizing everything. It's all you, Grinnell. You're a fucking incredible producer. Along with all the rest of the guys.
Team here.
We got Sean Apuzzo. We already mentioned memes. We got Pasha. Fish, who's a bit of a wild card weirdo. I don't know where he's sitting right now. And
Quater too.
And McQuaid. So
and
thank you to the whole crew.
Julia and Hannah setting us up with the tickets yesterday and the parties.
Absolutely. We're snapping around the
I'll say this,
right
though,
now.
too. Like G has to handle all of us idiots and all of them too, and we're
Herding
like last minute dinging him like, "Hey, you got 3 more tickets? Hey, he's got 3." It was crazy. So he's at home with all his family, all your friends, RA and Whit, and all you guys, and you still made it like comfortable for us traveling in guys coming in here and still got the full Boston experience, man. That was badass.
Last thing I'll say is Penguins, they stink. I mean, have they lost, 6 in a row now?
5 in a row. They blew the 4-0 lead.
What is going on? I mean, and then they couldn't close out the game yesterday. So some magic by DeBrusk, but things are getting a little scary in Pittsburgh. And a goalie went down again, right?
Yeah.
So the E-Bug actually dressed. Didn't they get E-Bug have to get dressed in the game?
I believe so.
Mike Chase on the E-Bug and Pitt. He's a beauty.
That would have been insane. An E-Bug
So I don't
playing in a
know
Winter
if you guys
Classic.
saw the replay, though. I felt like the call on Dumoulin in the third period on Marchand that put them on the power play.
I didn't like the call.
Brutal.
I fucking hated the call. They didn't end up scoring on the power play. They scored right at the end of it. Coach Sullivan was fucking losing his mind. And then even on the winner, I felt like DeBrusk made a little bit of contact with Dumoulin coming into the zone, which ended up freeing him up because Dumoulin blew a tire. And then after Halsey went POP, pass off the pads, little Wilkes-Barre special. Dan Bylsma, keep the change, Stanley Cup champion. It went right to fucking DeBrusk, who ends up scoring the goal. So good for Spidey, or they call him Cheddar Bob. Have you ever heard? They call him. They have a lot of nicknames for him. So I don't know who told the story. Was it on this podcast they said about Jake DeBrusk and how he's trying to learn the new word? Oh, it was Forbes. Yeah, okay.
I seen him on the way out when I was walking out behind you. He kept the uniform on, and he didn't see me. I goes, "Hey, nice to see you didn't get health bombed." He turned around, started laughing. He's like, "Hey, where's Biz?" So we had a check. I seen a few of the boys on the way out.
Can I ask you guys your feelings on this when it was 1-1 late in the game on the outdoor on the stage? I was thinking, I'm like, oh my God, Crosby's gonna dagger the Bruins. Yep. I'm like, this is such a.
Me and Merle spent overtime, so I was just like, yes, we're gonna get OT. I was plus 300. Nope.
Oh, what time did they score with
2 minutes left?
That's right when I looked at Merle's too. He's like, you kidding me? He's pacing up and down in the thing with his phone out. But I thought that was setting up to be like, because just those moments, when guys are like that, and Sid's always been like that.
Well, that's the thing.
I was like, oh, this is.
And Gary was there, so the Wizard of Oz is pulling the puppet strings.
And it was like, but that was the same when they had Bucic, Chara, and Orr. It was Crosby and Bergeron. It's like,
I know
so many legends here. I'm like, one of those guys is gonna do something special. The other thing I had to mention before we move on from this weekend was at the Loco after party post live show. This guy comes up to me. He's like, hey, I listened to the Forbird interview. He's like, I'm one of the guys that's been to his fucking elevator like 65 times. He's a firefighter, so this guy gets called every single time somebody's stuck in there. And Forbes, I don't know if he made it clear, the elevator only goes from the lobby to his penthouse. So it's not for the whole building. So anytime that elevator's stuck, it's either him, his dog walker, his family. Boston Fire Department's been there legit 60 times. So the guy's like, yeah, the guy might have to figure out a way to get out of that building.
Or a ladder.
Or just maybe
a pole.
Threaten the what are the people who run the
HOA strata?
Yeah, exactly. The landlord. Threaten the landlord.
Yeah, Johnny Busick, that was awesome seeing Chief come out. He's up there, still ticking. It was a special moment seeing that. So, biggest story since we last met. Of course, we taped early with Christmas last week. Ovi passes Gordy Howe. I mean, only the third guy to pass 800 passes Gordy. Was that one of the best empty netters you've ever seen? Like, I still don't know how he put that in the net.
I feel like he's been getting, was he at 8 empty netters this season?
Yeah, he's got a few. But that was one of the most impressive ones I've ever seen.
No, that was sick because it was just like behind the back to bury it. But I immediately thought of, I think it was Bucci who mentioned he cannot break the record with an empty netter, because even on that, I was like, I know it doesn't matter, and I think still to this day, Gretzky has more empty netters than Ovi has. It's getting closer, but I was like, oh my God, it's just not the same when a goalie's in net. I'm not trying to make this not be this amazing scenario.
He didn't even want to score it, though. He was trying to pass it to Kuzi.
The shot he had before, it almost looked like he
tried to pass it to Kuzi, and then it lost. It came back to him. He's like, screw it, and he just did this weird wrist thing.
Yeah,
just
but it's
snapped it in.
It's insane. And then I think since that night he had a hat trick, correct?
Against the Canadians.
4 goals since. Yeah.
And then all the Canadians' moms took a picture with him after the game. Oh yeah. Oh, they were all lined up
on the mom's trip.
This is in MILF mode right
now. Like, I already have RAs, Mom. Don't worry about it.
Amazing to see him, though, right? Amazing to see Ovi touching those records.
It's great to be alive. Like I said, only 3 guys in the history of the game scored 800. Plus, also the Jets lineup to give the handshakes. That was pretty cool, classy gesture by them.
And buddy, they were banged up at the beginning of the season. Now. They are fucking humming right now. And I think the question was at the start of the year, if you had to pick one of these teams that are getting older and fading off between the Bruins, Pens, and Caps, which 2 teams would you say make playoffs? Storyline for the league, if all 3 of these teams with those core players end up making it again, the East is a beast. I don't know.
Is ridiculous.
I don't know who's coming out of the fucking East, man. It could be anybody's game. I mean, Tampa's still in the mix, guys. It's great to see.
Buffalo, Detroit are surging in those wild cards.
We were looking at just the Atlantic. It's every team has a winning record. It's nuts.
You know who might not make playoffs? The New Jersey Devils.
Yes.
Great call.
Yep.
Look at Pasha, this idiot over there shaking his head. Hey. Keith Yandel took a lot of heat. He took a lot of heat from, I don't know if he was on his Sportsnet.
Yeah, Cassie Campbell was there.
He took a lot of heat for saying, I don't even think they're going to make playoffs. People are like, oh my God. Since then, I think they've lost 10 of 12. they look beyond average, and it's been one of those things where you couldn't have seen this coming. At least I couldn't.
I'll tell you what happened. I think I spread it the word earlier in the trip. When Jack Hughes, he broke that record for the 7-minute shift, right? He took a 7-minute shift. Everybody was so excited about that. They've lost 8 out of 10 games since then. Something like that just ruins.
I don't think it was that.
It ruins.
I think it was
RA.
It can
ruin a team.
Tweeting out that shrimp platter inside the booth. I think they're like they've lost. I think they're like 2-16 since he tweeted that one out.
You want a cool Chiclets moment? We're walking into the game yesterday. There's a guy. I'm walking with you. Remember Whit?
Oh, yeah.
And your family and stuff. And Pasha's got like his camera. He's wheeling. We're outside on the street. Some guy's on top of the green monster, and he yells down, "Fuck you, Pasha! Fuck the Devils! Fuck!" Like down. The kids everywhere. This guy's giving it to Pasha.
I paid him $20 to do it.
Actually, then there was another guy too that's like, "EBR, you're making me so much money." I'm like, what is happening right now?
Hey, and I know I'm stirring the pot a little bit, but when the Devils were, and Pasha's got the mic in his hand. I can't wait.
I just want to say, Merles, you were reaching with that stat, saying that the 6-minute shift by Hughes was a turning point in their season.
Why can't anyone on the second line get a shift for 7 minutes?
Here's a stat for you. When they were first in the league, they'd had the easiest strength of schedule up until that point.
Analytics busy.
And to the remaining of the season, they have the 3rd hardest schedule.
No.
In the entire NHL.
That's fine. That's fine. But if you want to talk numbers, during this lost 8 of 10 streak, they're still winning the 5-on-5 battle against most teams.
Here we go, Mr. Analytics.
They're still winning the 5-on-5 battles, but their shooting percentage went down like 6%. So like it was unsustainably low right now. They're losing these games by 1 goal.
That's what Leaf fans say. Like, we had possession. We want possession.
Elon Musk over there. When are we getting to Mars?
It's not like they're getting cratered in every night. They're still playing good hockey. They're just not scoring goals. It'll even out, and they're going to make the playoffs.
Sounds like a high school coach. Like, we're winning the 5-on-5 battles, guys. We're down 8-0.
Well, those stats are the same reason I knew they'd be good this year at Witt. And how did that turn out for you?
Well, I mean, they're like
they're fun to watch.
They're kind of like a mid team right now, are they?
Fun
not?
to watch though.
Like in the past 3 weeks, they're a mid team. Yes.
Overall in the league, where are they?
If you told me in the summer that on January 3rd they'd be second in the Metro, I would take that every fucking day of the week.
They're 100% way better than I thought. But I can just say that I flip-flop all over the map. That's what I'm known for. I was like, wow, this team's like really good. They're really fast. I saw them play in person against Chicago when they had like 12,000 people there, and they were in first place in the league. But Yandel saying that, I was like, what is he talking about? And it turned out to be a little more accurate than everyone gave him credit for. Because now they're not exactly like a lock to make playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
It was also a funny backstory as to why he said it. Because they said, we're going to make this a topic, and everybody had them making playoffs. Yeah. So he's like, well, I guess I'll fucking say they aren't.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget.
He went bad guy style. Double middle fingers.
that next pod that we talked about this, Jan's talking about that, I did say I agree with him. I was like, I texted him right after him. I was like, Jans, I agree with you.
You've been hot with your predictions. You had Czech coming into the World Juniors as one of your top teams, and they ended up fucking bending over Canada in that first one. Love you, Bedard. You're going to live with me first year with the Coyotes.
God, can you imagine?
Yeah, I got him a Nick Papa Giorgio fake ID. You're gonna be crushing everything on him now. Probably take that out. Where were we? New Jersey. That's it. Another thing too is they're missing Graves right now. They're missing Marino.
Graves is back, and Palat is now practicing full contact, so he'll be back.
Palat's big.
Some leadership in the locker room is much needed, so we can move on from the stink Devils.
They will make the playoffs.
The Metro's a beast, though. The Metro is a beast.
Yeah.
What's the
plan? I was just I'm just trying to think of what this all started with, and it was Washington. So before wrapping them up, because they're fans, they get on us about not bringing them up. Insane to see Ovi do this. It's now just a matter of time, which is wild to think. I think 80-ish away, and they're getting Wilson back soon, and in the next week or two after that, it'll be Backstrom. So happy for the Caps fans. I know I've said I have nothing to say about your team. Well, fuck, you start playing like this, we're going to continue to talk about them, and they would not be an easy out. So we'll see how it goes, but it's cool to watch this goal chase go down, and it's going to be one of the top moments in hockey history whenever it happens in 2 years.
Yeah, Caps 11-13. They won third place right now. You just mentioned those two guys coming back, and shout out to John Carlson. Took a fucking puck off the face
right
tonight.
Before Christmas.
Buddy, friend of the program. Hopefully you're feeling all right, buddy. Get back out there soon. You hate to see that kind of shit happen, but we got a nice little race there. And then we got to shout out the Canes. I know we stroked them off.
Canes, yeah.
Yeah, we've stroked them off very recently, but 11 straight. They've won 15 out of 16, a point in all 16. Anthony Ranta, back-to-back shutouts. What's his name? Peter Kochetkov, back-to-back shutouts in this run. So just give them a little mini stroke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hope they don't bust their nut too much before playoffs. And, we talked about how strong the East is. So it would be fun to see them make a run, man. I like seeing these smaller markets have teams that can, get the fan bases going. But
Pacioretty too, though. They're going to
He's
add
coming back.
Pacioretty.
He tore his Achilles in the offseason. So that's we always mention getting a trade late in the season at the deadline. That's basically like adding a guy to the roster. 30-goal man for I don't know how many fucking seasons.
And now they're like, no one plays like them. So it's like so weird. I
Well,
think
they're
they'd
so
be easier in the playoffs because you could game plan them for 7 games. But in regular season, they play like It's like Bridgeport Sound Taggers when we were in the minors. They played man on man. And we never played a team that played man on man. So you're going game to game, and all of a sudden you got this weird alien team. It's weird.
Yeah, it's also.
But they play it perfect. It's a hard way to play, but they
play so hard. They play
so
playoff
hard.
hockey all
the
season.
time, yeah.
But that's why they don't have the much success once the playoffs come. They can't ramp it up.
And they
already
don't-
are ramped up.
Yeah.
They don't have a guy it's like the one thing I talked to Justin Williams about. I don't remember what he was saying in terms of agreeing
just
with me or
Aho?
not about not having the superstar. Like even now, you look of all these top end teams.
Natchez is now a superstar.
He's not over a point per game. He's not a superstar. That's like the point. I love Aho, and he came back from injury recently. He's looked great.
And Svech.
But they don't. Svech, yeah, great player, but not a superstar.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes the game changer for them. That's what I've harped on the past 3 seasons when they have had chances to run. It's just it could be the thing that ends up holding
like
them
a
back.
5-star game breaker.
A legit game breaker. They don't have one. So let's see if it can finally get over it. And the backstory to the argument against my point is they didn't have one when they won the cup before in 06 or whatever it was.
McDavid
So
to
we'll
the
see.
Canes.
They had Cam Ward, though.
Yep.
Yeah, true that. We're going to bring on our guest in a little bit. We have a great one, Tony Granato, famous U.S. hockey player. He's got a great interview. We got about an hour with him coming in a bit. But a little bit of history Biz made since the last time out. First gritty ever in the NHL. Jake Wallman, Detroit defenseman, gets the OT tuck. I mean, I don't even know what the gritty is or where it came from, the old fogey on the podcast.
I bet you Grinelli knows.
must know.
I know Merles hates it.
Yeah,
Merles
that was-
hates this.
Merle's Twitter went insane. I'm like,
Insane.
here we go.
You cannot be doing that on Sidney Crosby's
What do you think
ice.
Stevie
when you're
Wise-
I don't even know who you are. You just got called up. You have 2 goals. You cannot do that on Sidney Crosby's
What do you think
ice.
Stevie Y was thinking when he saw that?
I'm a wings guy, but I just can't have that. I cannot have that going on.
Is it from Jefferson on the Vikings when he was at LSU?
No, it's just like a popular
Buddy,
dance. It's like
every
everyone does it.
10-year-old
Yeah.
hockey player does it when they
I
score.
feel like
Mitch
the
Marner did it.
football is where
Marner
it
did it?
became big.
Mitch
Yeah, I
Marner
think
did
of the
it, Whit.
football thing.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. There you go.
Well,
So
that
what's he
was
gonna have a
also,
hit out on?
all right. That was also a 4-0 lead by the Pens.
Yeah, I
Squandered
know.
to
So
a
it's-
5-4 overtime. Like, I mean, do whatever you want maybe at that moment, but we haven't seen it. Have we seen? That's the first time like on a goal like that in the NHL. Kind of blew up.
Yeah,
blew
it did.
blew his brains too.
I mean,
he was mad.
It's probably a little like old man yells at cloud to be like furious at it. But some people, yeah, it's about the respect. And I guess this kid not being a household name, people are like, why is he doing it? But in the end, it's more like Penguins fans maybe look at your team in the mirror. You just blew a 4-0 lead.
Yeah, guy, I think it was his 6th career goal or something, 3rd of the year. Fuck it. Have a little fun, man. No one expected you to get it, so good for him.
Before we go any further, I need to remind you guys that this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When you're at your best, you can do great things, but sometimes life gets you bogged down and you may feel overwhelmed or like you're not showing up in a way that you want to. Working with a therapist can help you get closer to the best version of you, because when you feel empowered, you're more prepared to take on everything life throws at you. You guys heard me talk at the end of an episode recently about, what therapy can do and how much it can help you. It's helped me in life. Anytime you're ever wondering, what everything's all about or how you're supposed to feel, it can always benefit you to talk to someone. I'm telling you that's personal experience that I've been through. I would not make this up. It really can change your life. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, and entirely online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/Chiclets today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Chiclets for 10% off your first month.
How about this one? JT Miller and Colin Delia, they were I was watching that game. The Canucks, they couldn't get the fucking puck out of the zone. You could see Delia looking at the fucking coach tells you when to come out, not your
You got to
players.
explain the situation.
Okay, I will. Sorry. So it was late in the game. Vancouver's down a goal. They're trying to pull the goalie. They're having trouble getting it out of the zone versus Winnipeg. And Colin Delia, he's looking to the bench for the goalie the coach to get him out. JT Miller is coming around the zone. He's fucking screaming at him to get the fuck out, which I've never seen. And then he slams the stick down on the crease like that. I mean, was he showing the guy up? I mean, was he embarrassing? I mean, you guys played in the league.
I think sometimes, with the season that they're having, tension's high. I don't know whether it was they were trying to pull their goalie or it was a delayed penalty.
No, they were trying to pull him.
They were trying to pull him, okay. Probably got a little bit overzealous with the stick, and I would imagine that's a conversation they might have had after the game, being like, "Hey, man, sorry for getting so animated." But the clock's ticking, right? So you got to be aware. And I don't know, maybe fucking Bruce Boudreau had barbecue sauce on his face and he wasn't paying attention to what was going on. So JT Miller had to step in, right? So. Yeah, probably showed him up a little bit, but nothing a little locker room chatter.
I think he was just a little bit more aware than the goalie. It was also probably a little bit scared, waiting for a signal.
Yeah.
And Miller's like, hey, we got possession. Get our extra guy on there. Changes the way the ice looks. Let's go. Time's ticking. And the guy, the wires were crossed. So I don't think it's a big thing. I think it looked bad on social media, but I don't think it was a big thing when you're in the heat of the moment and the game's ticking down for Miller to kind of go crazy.
That's what Jans used to do when I was on the ice with him. He's like,
get off!
Fuck off the ice! We're trying to score a fucking goal here. I need playmakers on the ice.
I saw McKenna retweet it, kind of dogging JT Miller. That's Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie. He was mentioning that you're almost told to not go to the bench until the puck leaves the defensive zone. Who knows, maybe a turnover, you put it in your own net. So maybe that is the rule for goalies. I think it was one of those things that looked way worse than it was, but JT Miller might maybe regret it a little. If he's just yelling at him, it's one thing. When he slashed the crossbar, it's the guy's like, what the hell do I do?
When you're 10, when the puck goes out, you get pulled. When you're in NHL, you see we got possession, and it's really low time. You should no, okay, shit, we got to take a risk here.
Well, that's what they're saying now is they get them out earlier because why would you wait until he's in the zone? Now you'll have 6 guys to try to get the puck back instead of waiting and only having 5 guys. So it's that's what he was probably thinking, the old way, where JT Miller's in the new way of thinking.
This is also a guy who was getting harassed at the pumpkin patch in October by the hay maze. So maybe he's just got a little PTSD from the hay maze harassment, and that's why he's snapping on his goalie.
And his extension hasn't even kicked in yet.
Yeah. Yeah, 7 years, 56 mil. But you can't say, I don't know why people are talking about when you smash your fucking stick over the crease and the goalie getting out. And if he did go out earlier, they would have actually scored the empty net or so. Either way, everybody will move along. But
he probably had the puck line, so he's trying to help us out.
Hold the fort here. Your Leafs got double pee-pee whacked last week. There's a $100,000 fine for violating the CBA. You're not supposed to travel, have any team activities on the 24th, 25th, or 26th of December. They wanted to fly out to be in St. Louis for the game the next day. They were supposed to leave at midnight, but they ended up leaving at 10:30. They violated the CBA, $100,000. Now, is that worth it for the team just to wake up and be in that city?
That's the Shane Doan rule when they were negotiating the CBA. That he was like, guys need time with their family. You're not even supposed to ask the team. You can't even ask them if the leadership group was like, hey, if you guys want to leave early, we can leave early. Maybe they asked them and the team was like, yeah, let's do it. $100,000 to the Maple Leafs is a front wipe. They took 2 breaths and made it back. They don't give a flying fuck. They're the richest team in the league. Shanny probably paid for it out of his stocking stuffer. I don't really know what to say. Then they ended up going to Arizona. It was Austin Matthews' return to Mullet Arena, or I guess his first trip there back home. But it was a cool experience. The building was rocking. No scraps in this one. But the Coyotes are 6-1-1 in their last 8 games there, and they've been playing some awesome hockey. So they spoiled his return. Yeah, a little bit of a downturn for the Leafs this time of year, but I think that they're going to be fine. It sucked. I ended up running into to Muzzin on the concourse, and I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. So the rumblings have started where maybe they're going to look to make a trade, maybe get Jacob Chychrun, a guy who doesn't make a ton of money but could impact that back end. So I still like the squad. I still think they're going to make it out of the first round. I'm confident that they're going to go on a run this year.
They're going to win back-to-back cups. So, yeah, that means you get out of the first round.
Yeah. So I would take it game by game, series by series, buddy. Slow steps here.
And who did they play, though, in that game? St. Louis,
yeah,
right?
They got to win.
Time. So, $100,000.
I actually, as a Leafs hater, I think it makes a lot of sense. I know you can't really do it. I wonder if we'll see that fine get higher and higher. But if all the guys are there, it's like, I want to be there. I want to wake up there as opposed to just that extra few hours of getting in at 5 a.m. It's like, it makes a difference. So the Leafs don't care about that money. The game in Arizona, the Coyotes at home, like you said, 6-1-1, they just work teams to the bone there, and the crowd seems awesome.
Yeah.
Even though there was tons of Leafs fans, but that was sick to watch. I watched that game. I knew you were working it, and that team at home now is like, they better stop winning so often.
I
at
know.
home.
I said they got to trade Vejmelka. He slaps lipstick on a pig. He is so good. He's so athletic, and it's just.
And Chychrun is like, he's doing his job. He's I didn't realize he's like a point per game, playing a ton of minutes. He's a beast.
Yeah, he's been a beast since he came back, so his draft stock's going up. So if I'm the GM, I'm looking to move Vejmelka. I think you can get a shitload in return, and I think he's the type of – I mentioned the Buffalo Sabres. Like, if they were to consider wanting to go on a run, I would take a look at this guy, especially at the fact that he's got 2 more years left at 2.75. If he's an elite goaltender and top 15 in the league at that cap hit –
he's getting like 50 shots a game, and he's like – really good.
I think he's leading the league in high danger scoring chances, saves, or whatever the fucking analytics are. Ask Pasha, he knows. Fuck Elon Musk over there. But overall, very proud of the Coyotes. But I agree with you, Whit. If you want to tank for Bedard, you got to start losing some fucking hockey games.
And the Coyotes beat the Maple Leafs all 4 games played in calendar year 2022. Biz, you must have been
there's an insane stat. I think that they've gotten points against them in 21 straight. They haven't lost a game to them in regulation since Christ was born, for crying out loud.
I think it goes back to the early 2000s, right? Is that not when it is? It's like long time.
I'm sure G can pull up the stat right now.
Long time they've been owning the Leafs, and why does that happen? It's like crazy.
I think they probably.
I see Crosby's got like 128 points career against the Islanders, and it's like he goes against the Islanders, or the Flyers, the Rangers, obviously in their division. But this one's like so
I think
weird.
they probably just let down their guard. It's the one team they let down their guard against. Yeah. Maybe they don't take them as serious and don't come in as focused. And I'm sure that they, with Matthews going back to Arizona, I mean, maybe they were hitting up Mill Ave or Old Town the night before, celebrating his return.
Yeah, maybe Styles too. Styles a little bit.
I remember we'd go to Arizona. You
guys grind. Coyotes grind. Coyotes are committed to like hardworking grind game, and they just want to play possession, like, Leafs hockey.
I mentioned it before. That tourney has them playing, and the guys love him. They all respect him, and he can. What's the saying? He could squeeze the shit out of a beaver. What's it? Beaver nickel. My brain's clicking out.
What were you saying about Arizona?
Shaving a beaver out of a
Remember
nickel?
when we would stay there? You would stay at like this resort. Like guys are bringing their golf clubs. Or out at
that
the
was
pool.
sick.
Yeah, like you're definitely not focused when you're down there playing the Coyotes.
It was like a Fairmont or something.
Yeah, and now they're like even down more, right? Like they're down at where the college is. It's like sick down there.
We can move on.
Yeah. I have that stat, Biz. It's been more than 20 years since the Maple Leafs have beaten the Coyotes at home in regulation.
That's a long run.
That is wild. Sheldon Keefe, he was fined $25,000 for demeaning conduct directed at the officials during that St. Louis game. Had a couple shit fits, and people are like, oh, that's soft, that's soft. It's like, I think that type of fine, Cole, and like, it's like the Supreme Justice talking about porn. He's like, you know it when you see it. It's like the way he acted. It's like, yeah, man, you fucking showing up the refs here. Did you? I thought
you don't see this very often, though. And like we hear on watching the games, you hear F-bombs here and there, and you see guys fighting with refs all the time. How many times so far, though, in the last year, has a ref been like, hey, my microphone's on?
He's trying to mute himself.
Like, just get in the box before you swear at me, and we get in a huge fuck you match in front of the whole ring. This happens. It all happens a lot. So to hand out a fine when you don't see it that often, coaches blowing gaskets and stuff, and it's emotional. You get going, you get fired up, and
the broadcast is just going to commercial. You just hear cocksucker, and then it's like a Church of Latter-day Saints commercial right after it.
Yeah. So what is that? $120,000. The Leafs got dinged in that one day.
25. That'll come out of Keefe's, out of his own pocket. But yeah,
sick math.
Yeah, right. Big sign in Dallas. They re-upped Joe Pavelski 1 year, $3.5 million extension. It could get up to 5.5.
Not bad for a 46-year-old. I mean,
this guy, man, I tell you, this guy, San Jose. He left San Jose because I don't think they'd give him. It was an extra year, and they're probably thinking like he's getting older. He's my age. He's got. I think he's 40 now.
38.
30.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, he's an 84. Excuse me. I'm a year older than him. But either way, played a long time. Well, now he's into the 4th year. He's still lighting it up. He's got a 5th year coming after this, and he just continues to score around the net. No one better at tipping. And like Robertson and Hintz have come into their own as these elite level, especially Robertson, like superstar type player. I don't think it'd be fair to say that would necessarily be happening this quickly without a guy like Pavelski on his line, teaching him the game, teaching him the little things. Like a true hockey mind that always is working on getting better. And I've said a million times, kind of the Justin Williams thing. He's good at everything. Yeah. The sick golfer, the great ping pong player. I always bring it up. But he's not slowing down. He's not slowing down.
Big hunter too, so big hunter. So Texas makes a lot of sense.
And no state tax, baby.
And
so
no
it's like
state
why
tax.
I wouldn't want to leave the Dallas Stars right now the way they're going.
Yeah, they're rolling right now. 12th highest scoring American ever, and 8th in goals for Americans.
And number 1 in playoffs. I think he's got the most goals in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs by any American. Or points, one or the other.
Wow, a lot of nuggets coming out of there.
Yeah, well, speaking of great American players, Tony Granato was one, and I think maybe we should send it over to him right about now, boys. This interview is brought to you by Big Deal Brewing. Wow, the weekend was flowing with the BDBs all weekend, biz. I slurped on a few. The Wit Dog had a few. Brilliant idea. Everybody's been raving about it. 4.5% Golden Ale. Wit Dog, how many did you have this weekend?
I had a bunch, probably too many to mention, and still be a responsible parent and adult. But it tastes great. I got a beer snob buddy at home, and he was the one guy. I'm like, I don't know. He doesn't like many beers. A Big Deal Brewing came out. He told me New Year's Eve at the party we were all hanging out at, he's like, this beer's so good. He's been buying it off the shelf. He loves it. I'm like, if we can make this guy happy, we can make anyone happy, because it's a truly great tasting beer that I think everyone that's had the chance to give it a shot is coming back for more.
Big Deal Brewing, the original Golden Ale, Ryan Whitney. It's the nectar of the gods, and it's crushable. 12-pack, they go down smooth. Keep the fucking change, you filthy animal.
Go to BigDealBrewing.com to find it near you.
Big Deal Brewing.
Thanks to Biz and G for setting this one up, and Tony Granato, long career, great stories. Check it out.
All right, it's a pleasure to bring on our next guest. A 6th-round selection by the New York Rangers at the 1982 draft. This American forward went on to play 13 NHL seasons with the Rangers, Kings, and Sharks. He made the All-Rookie team in 1989 and was awarded the Masterton Trophy in 1997. And since 2016, he's been the head coach at the University of Wisconsin. Thanks so much for joining us on the Spittin Chiclets podcast, Tony Granato. How's it going, Tony?
Good morning, guys. Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. How's things going out in Wisconsin these days?
We're grinding through it. We're off to a little bit of a tough start, but we bunch of great kids, love our university, love our program, and we're trying to build something special here like it used to be when Chelios and Flatley and Driver and Suter and all those other guys were back here playing.
And yourself, you could pump your own tires for crying out loud. I was looking at your stats in college.
I didn't have as many penalty minutes as you would have had in college, but I had quite a few.
Yeah, but he couldn't get in. No, couldn't get in. I went to Davenport University in Saginaw, Michigan, and they fucking kicked me out of there.
It's a fake school.
Yes, it is. It's like fucking Trump University for crying out loud.
Yeah, you had quite a few PIMs in college. You like to mix it up back then. How much was the discipline with the referees and stuff back then?
You know what's funny? I look back on that, and I'm somewhat embarrassed by those penalty minutes. But I also remember the mentality of a college player back then, thinking that if you're ever going to play pro hockey, you got to show you're tough. And I don't know if it was a dumb way to show you were tough by taking dumb penalties, but I think that was the mentality that, we had. And I remember Gary Suter was here at the same time. He was an undersized defenseman that went to the NHL right after, was Rookie of the Year, Stanley Cup, unbelievable career. You look back at his penalty minutes, the same thing. So I think as smaller players and college players, the mentality at that time was, if you're going to play pro hockey, you got to show you're tough. And that was one dumb way of showing we were tough.
That's how you stood out to the scouts then, right? Because at that time, I feel like undersized guys, it was very difficult to get drafted. Because
and Americans.
Yeah, and Americans too.
Both, I agree. And I think the mentality that we had, again, wasn't the right way to look at it, but it was the only way to show that if you played hard and you stuck your nose in there against big guys, that maybe you'd get noticed and maybe you'd get a chance.
Now, you grew up, was it in the Chicago area? Where exactly did you grow up and play youth hockey?
Yeah. Downers Grove, Elmhurst Huskies. Brett Hull was my teammate my mite year.
Was he really?
Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Was he chirping people then?
Was he that cocky back then, too?
I don't remember that part. He was a little chubby. I remember that. Couldn't skate, but we played at an outdoor rink, and as a mite player, so I think we were 7. The fence behind the end zone, because we were outside, was probably 15, 20 feet high over the boards. And he used to stand on the blue line and take wrist shots over that fence as a mite and hit the trains going by on the train tracks behind. And I couldn't lift the puck to get it in the net, let alone lift it over the net and over the fence to hit the trains. And I remember that about Brett. So, but it was funny because he couldn't skate. I mean, he really couldn't. His ankles, there was ankle benders out there, but he could shoot a puck.
I don't think there's an area in the United States that has kind of upped their development of players and youth hockey like Chicago has in the past, 5-10 years. So growing up then at that time, I mean, there must not have been a ton of rinks, a ton of hockey programs, were there?
Well, we had the Blackhawks were going good there because Stan McKee, Bobby Hull, Tony Esposito, those were our guys. But we did not have great youth programs, or at least a lot of them. And we started getting AAA as I got into high school. We got the Minor Hawks came into play. Team Illinois came into play. But we had a few players kind of. Chelly was one of them. Chelly came and played quite a bit of his youth hockey in Chicago. And we had a couple others. Ricky Zombo was one of them. Stevie Richmond was one of them. But there weren't many kids from Chicago that were going past, I mean, some of them were sneaking into college, but not many. But very few were making it to the NHL. But it was pretty good hockey. I think it's been great now. I think, you look at the kids coming from everywhere now in the United States. It's kind of hard to believe that, back then you couldn't get really good programs in Illinois, but that's come a long way. But all through the states now, Phoenix, Florida, wherever you're at, you get good programs, and players come out of it and play not only college, but they go on to the NHL.
It must change recruiting big time for you. But when it comes to you bring up Chelios' name, just a true legend. So you came into Wisconsin the year after he left. I think he left after his sophomore year. Must have been some crazy stories about how he was on campus, right? Before you got there.
You're looking for a few stories.
Well, no, I'm not looking. I'm not looking. I just imagine there were some.
Nobody has to tell him about Chris because Chris will tell you himself. He was the one that took me out on my recruiting visit. So we became really close really fast. So I came in as on my recruiting trip. Chris took me out because I was supposed to be a big recruit, and then they sent me with Chelly. And he can tell you about that night. We got split up. I ran back to my hotel. He ran a different direction. And we met the next morning for breakfast. So I will leave it at that, and he can explain the details somewhere in between on the events that happened. But Chris is one of those guys and players and people that once you become his buddies with, and you realize the big heart that he has, the competitiveness that he has, the love for the game of hockey that he has, you realize how special he is and how special he is to have as a friend. So he's one of those guys that I was lucky as a younger player to get to know early, to really realize, geez, if you're going to play pro, look at what you have to do. And his competitiveness, work ethic, his courage were three things that I completely admired in a big way right away. And those were things that helped me as I got going.
We talked to a lot of guys who ended up obviously going to college. Now, was that your first recruiting trip? Because some guys say they go to the first spot and they're like, hey, I just fit in like a glove there and I knew that was a place I wanted to go. Or were you a guy that had your pick of the litter where you could have gone to any program you wanted to at the time?
Yeah, I was lucky, Biss. I did a repeat year in prep school because my grades weren't very good. To be totally honest with you, I don't know if I could have got into college my junior year. So I went to a prep school and I had to repeat a year just to get my academics in order to be ready for college. So I got recruited 2 years. So I got recruited by Bob Johnson, which was technically my senior year, but I was only a junior school-wise.
The legend.
The legend. He brought me in, and he wanted me to come in as a true freshman, and he brought me in on a visit, and he actually, I remember the recruiting trip like it was yesterday, because Bob Johnson was this icon, and I'm sitting at the end of the meeting. You always meet with the coach right at the end, and then he kind of tells you where you might fit and everything. He goes, Granato, he goes, next year you're going to be on the power play. Driver's going to be on top. Flatley's going to be at the net front. Chelios is going to be over here, and I want you right here. All you're going to do is shoot the puck, Granato. I want you to shoot the puck. And I remember going, hey, coach, I'm only a junior. Don't worry about being a junior. You can take a test at the end of the season, and we'll get you into college next year. You're gonna be on the power play next year. And I'll never forget that. And obviously, I could not. I didn't have the credits, or was I qualified enough to get into a college at that time. And I went back for one more year. And a year later, Bob had left and gone on to Calgary Flames. Jeff Sauer became the coach. And so I kind of always knew I wanted to go to Wisconsin. even though I did go on quite a few other visits because the visits are special.
Yeah. You don't want to give those up.
Like, don't miss a visit. If you can get on a college visit, they've changed. They're not quite like they used to be.
Thank God.
At least I hope not. I mean, you hand them off to your players and you give the players a few rules now. Hey, guys, make sure you stay out of trouble. Don't go here. These kids are only 17 or 16 when they come in on visits. Make sure you treat them and you understand they're only 16 or 17. And then you get a lot of trust in your players when you do let them take the guys.
You got your leadership group printing Papa Giorgio fake IDs for these young guys they're bringing in.
Some things you don't want to know what happened, and those are probably some of them. But I don't. They're definitely. But there's no way they're like they used to be.
No.
When Chris took me out, like, holy cow.
Or you could just do like Michigan and have a Louis Vuitton duffel bag with $50K in cash waiting for them.
That word worked too. Yeah.
I remember I've told these guys before, but I had my official visit at BU, legendary coach Jack Parker. Just like you mentioned, you meet the head coach at the end. Well, it was the next morning. And I'm sitting there. I got Lucky Charms, and I got dragged out by my afro from Daisy Buchanan's the night before. I'm like, I might get my scholarship revoked at this official. But I meant to ask you quick, what prep school was it? A Midwest prep school? Did you go out east?
Northwood, Lake Placid.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's where Eric Cole's
Jay
son
Miller,
is.
home of Jay Miller. Yeah.
Nice.
It was Chris Nyland. I went to a place that was supposed to develop talent, and Jay Miller and Chris Nyland, two of the toughest guys ever to play in the NHL, came out of Northwood Prep before I did. Then Mike Richter went there, and then we've had 4 or 5
That's
other
probably
guys.
why you were acting the way you did in college, because you had those guys protecting you at the program wherever you were beforehand.
And I played with them in the NHL, and they both protected me there as well. Chris was with me my rookie year in New York. Chris Nyland was as good of a protector and a teammate that you could ever have. And I'll tell you a quick story about Chris. I'm glad you brought his name up because as a young player and as an American player and as supposed to be a skilled player when you come in, back in those days, it was tough to try to find your way in there and to prove you were tough enough and whatever else. And Chris, I was all excited because about 10 games into my NHL career, I felt I wanted to get in a fight just so I could get my name in the paper, fighting mate, Granato. It'd be so cool, right? And we're playing Pittsburgh, and it's the right time. I find the right guy, Johnny Cullen. You know Johnny Cullen because you play with him or know of him because he was. But my size, and I thought maybe I could do okay against him. So we get ready to fight, and we drop the gloves. The refs get in there and break it up before we can get the fight in. So but at least I dropped my gloves. It looked cool. I get back to the bench. Chris Nyland slides over to me as hard as he can, and he looks at me in the eye and he says, "Don't ever drop your gloves again, because if that guy doesn't beat the crap out of you, by the time you get back to the bench, I'm going to beat the shit. That's my job. You don't drop your gloves. Tell me who you want me to beat up, and I'll do it for you." Wow. So you talk about a protector, because and then I'm thinking about, well, that makes sense. I get knocked out or beat up, it looks bad on Chris.
Yeah.
And for our team, and I'll never forget that lesson that Chris taught me.
But in the same breath, though, like you were that undersized guy that you talked about, in college, and you had to establish yourself. Even at the NHL level, I found like smaller guys, if they did that early on in their career, most guys would, tend to slowly leave you alone, where they, maybe you got that little extra second in front of the net, and guys weren't taking advantage of you.
I don't know, Biss. I did what Chris told me to do. I think that was a good thing to listen to him. Well, but then I had Marty in L.A. I had Jay Miller in L.A. I was lucky enough.
So how many NHL career scraps did you finish with?
You probably know better than I do, but I said the number 8, and that's a guess, and I probably threw a total of 5 punches or 4 punches.
Yeah, same here.
It was getting fought.
I think I had 4.
Did you let?
I think I had 4, and I'm similar. Like maybe 1 punch thrown. 1 punch thrown and a bunch of punches taken. It's not good.
Yeah. Biss, do you remember our training camp together in Pitt?
I do. That I was talking to Whit beforehand, and that was the one that I got claimed off waivers. I was going everybody in that training camp.
I looked it up because I said to our video coach, I said, you got to find this out. I said, I remember Biss fighting a lot in training camp that year. You had 3 fights.
Yep.
Did you?
3 games, back to back to back.
Yeah.
2 against Toronto and 1 against Columbus.
Toronto, I think I fought Holwig, Rose Hill. I forget who else I fought in preseason too, but I was trying to make the team.
Rogers. Who's Andy Rogers?
Andy Rogers. That's who it was.
Oh, yeah, you fought him?
Big defenseman. I think he was 55 at the time. Yeah, he actually lives out in BC now. But yeah, I was trying to make a name for myself too, and I think that was the only way I could make the team. But you guys had picked up Rupp in that offseason, who, you know, a few years prior had won the Cup and established himself as a
game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup.
I think he had 2 tucks that game. They won 2-1. Yeah. Marty Brodeur helped them out, and then I think Goddard was still there. So it just so happens I didn't think there was a chicken dick's chance I was going to get claimed off waivers. So I was like, okay, I'll maybe see you in a couple months because I'm getting sent down to Wilkes-Barre. And then fortunately, the Coyotes ended up snagging me. I got a little show dough there. So enough about my plug career. Let's get back to you, buddy.
Well, yeah, I had a question going back to Wisconsin because you see Suter left after sophomore year, Chelios after sophomore year, your sophomore year, 67 points, but you ended up staying all 4. 1, I hope you graduated, and 2, was there ever a thought about leaving sooner?
No, I had no chance with it. I was too small.
Oh, really?
It was set up perfect for me because I missed the Olympics by 1 year when I came in freshman year. The Olympics had expired. 4 years of college hockey, then it was set up perfect for me to play on that Olympic team in '88. Then I knew at that point that if I was going to make it, the longer I delayed my the longer I delayed my training camp or first pro hockey, the better I would be. If I was 5 pounds heavier and a little bit better and a little bit quicker, I had a better chance of making it. So I wasn't a rookie till I was 22, maybe 23.
Yep.
My year in the league. And if I started earlier, I don't think I make it. I don't think I could, man. Those days were way different.
Oh, those guys were mutants. The league was so fucking tough back then. Just a bunch of killers.
Tony, you just mentioned Lake Placid a second ago, and you ended up playing for the Olympic team. You took the whole year with the national team. Was that sort of a big dream come true, even before your pro career started, playing for the national Olympic team?
It was. I mean, you look at that team. Brian Leach was on that team. Peter Laviolette, Mike Richter, Scotty Young. I mean, we played with Kevin Stevens. We had a phenomenal group of college kids prior to them all, jumping into the NHL and having, pretty good careers. But the other thing that Olympic year did, we played 10 exhibition games against NHL teams in September. So the training camp, we went to 10 NHL teams. So there you get a chance to play exhibition games against, pro players. I thought that was a huge thing for me to realize, geez, I know I can play with them. I know I can skate with them. And again, now am I going to be tough enough to be able to compete at that level? So I got a little bit of a taste of it there. Then that Olympic experience, 8 years after they won the gold medal, lots of pressure and lots of, oh my gosh, how are you guys going to live up to the standards that Eruzione and Craig and all those guys set for you guys. But we had a great team. We just fell a little bit short in a couple games. We played the Russians to a 1-goal game, played the Czechs to a 1-goal game, and if you look back at it, we were pretty close to doing something special, but obviously a little bit short.
Now that was the games in Calgary, right? 88.
Yes,
so that season before, it's if you watch Miracle or know the 80 team, but a lot of people don't, you spend the whole season playing against all these different teams, right? So it must have been so cool. You're done with college, but then you're going around. Were you playing mostly IHL, AHL teams? How did that work? But you must have become so close as a group.
Yeah, we did. It was probably it was the closest team that I've ever been part of, but that was the reason. We lived with each other. We lived out of a suitcase, and we just traveled around the country playing teams. So 10 NHL games, like you said, some minor league teams, lots of college teams. We played the Russians 10 times.
Oh, you ever beat them?
Yes, because it was the Russians select teams. It wasn't the Red Army team. So they didn't show us the big team until we got to the Olympics. So we didn't play Krutov, Larionov, Makarov, those guys. We didn't play those guys till the actual Olympics. And we ended up losing that game. It was an unreal game, actually. We were down 5-2 in the third, 6-2 in the third. We came back, made it 6-5. In the third period, and then let's see who scored. Kasatonov scored an empty net goal, or Fedosov scored an empty net goal to make it 7-5. But we were close, and that was, again, we were a bunch of 19 to 22-year-old kids playing against that basically the greatest team ever put together, and we gave a game. So
that's unreal, because that was still the true Red Army squad, and I think that was the year they went and dusted up some NHL teams, wasn't it? I don't know what year it was. They went to Philly, I remember, at one point. Maybe that was earlier in the 80s.
It was a little bit.
Hey,
earlier.
the Broad Street Bullies. Didn't they beat the fucking wheels off?
They left the game.
Bobby Clark. Bobby Clark broke one of their ankles.
But that's what a cool memory that must have been. Do you remember looking back now? Who was the most dominant player on the team? I'm guessing Leachy, but I don't know if at that time it was a little different.
Oh, Leachy was so darn good.
He was sick.
He was sick, and then he went. We had 6 Ranger draft picks on that Olympic team, and Brian, at the end of that Olympics, ended in February. He went straight to the Rangers. The other 5 of us, signed. 2 of us, Peter Laviolette, myself, and Mike Richter, went down to the Denver Rangers that time. Played the rest of that season in the minors. Leachy went straight to the NHL and started his domination. Richter and I and Lavi went down to the minors, and the following year we went to training camp, and that's the year I ended up making it. So.
Were you expecting to get drafted?
I got drafted before that. I got drafted when I was at prep school in Lake Placid.
Yeah, but were you expecting it? Like, did you think you were going to get drafted?
No. Oh, no. No idea. Wow. I remember getting a questionnaire from the Rangers in high school. Fill out the questionnaire. How tall are you? What's your favorite? Whatever drink. All this different stuff. And I sent it in. I'm thinking, I don't know. They must send this to all the kids that are playing hockey. And then, so when I got drafted, I got a call on Sunday morning. So the draft was on Saturday in Montreal. I got a call Sunday morning from my house from someone that knew my dad that was in the Blackhawk organization that said, how come you didn't tell me Tony was going to get drafted? We would have drafted him. The Rangers drafted him yesterday. And then the Rangers called me later that day on Sunday to tell me. So the draft was way different back then.
You didn't find out 24 hours later?
No, there was no tweets and no things to show what was happening live in Montreal. You found out the next day in the paper, and I basically found out the next day in the paper and from a couple phone calls.
You mentioned that questionnaire. Was there a lot of psychological questions too? Because when it was my draft year, they sent me a booklet about this.
You were the only one who got that one, though.
You're a fucking asshole.
I don't remember that, Biss. There were questions, though, to find out, what kind of character you had. So you're trying to figure out what do they want to know. And then finally you just say, I don't really know what they want to know. So you just write down what you think is right and go with it. So it worked because that's the team that drafted me.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
Yeah, Tony, you look at that 82 draft, just 1 American in the first round, 61 Americans in the course of 12 rounds. So how long did the verbal and physical harassment last before it finally tapered off, your rookie year?
Oh, being an American, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that, the 80 team was the team that if that didn't happen, I don't know how it would have progressed, but that gave us the opportunity where people said, geez, these Americans, are special in maybe a different way than the Canadians are with the enthusiasm that they play with and the smaller skilled guys. So the Neil Brottons, the Mark Johnsons, and those guys that kind of broke through from that era gave, I think, the rest of us an opportunity. But the part about being an American and being small, I think that didn't matter where you came from. You were going to get abused until you figured out, proved to everybody else that you were tough enough to take it. That's just kind of the way it was. And Biss, that too. When you went into training camp and you looked around, to beat somebody else out, you had to show your teammates that you were willing to take a beating to join their club, so to speak, and to be part of what they wanted you to be. And that's, I was lucky enough I had Guy Lafleur, Marcel Dion, 2 Hall of Famers.
No way.
Yeah.
That were my line mates my rookie year. They were my line mates. My first 10 games, those guys probably were my line mates in 6 or 7 of them. So, here I am sitting between those 2 guys, and, they were, I don't want to say slowing down, but they were towards the end of their careers, but they gave me so much confidence because of the way they treated me and the way they helped me. And I was really fortunate to be part of that. And Leachy, obviously, I was there with Leachy as well. Mike Richter got called up a little bit later. Peter Laviolette got called up. So I had some familiarity with some other players that always helps you when you got some buddies in the group.
I'm glad you brought that up because I looked at your rookie year and I wanted to ask about going to training camp and seeing Guy Lafleur, who I think that was his one and only year as a Ranger, correct?
Yeah, that was his comeback year after 3 years of retirement.
It's unbelievable. So, you get into camp, you don't probably have expectations of making it, or were you like, I'm here to win a job?
Well, I played those 15 or 20 games in the minors the year before.
Yeah, the numbers were great.
Well, you know what numbers mean for small players. You hope they mean something, but when you get to training camp and your number's 39 and you're dressing down there in that other locker room with a bunch of guys that you never heard of, you're a little bit on the outside looking in. So that's where I was. And so it was I think that was a point in my career that summer I trained with Chelly, Suter, Richter. I trained with all of the guys at a level that when I went to training camp, I played it like it was going to be my Stanley Cup. And I was going to make it, or I might not. I don't know how long I could have lasted in the minors, the way that the game was played back then. So I threw everything in to do it. When I got to training camp, and we were in Trois-Rivières, I remember this. I had a good camp. Things went my way, and Phil Esposito was the GM. And some of the older players started to take, hey, look at this little guy flying around, and he's crashing and banging, and he's scoring, and he's doing all these things. So I could see I was gaining a little bit of momentum from the veterans on how they were treating me. And fortunately for me, I got some exhibition games, and they went well, and I ended up making it. So I would say I was a longer shot going in.
36 tucks. I looked at the numbers and I scrolled down Hockey DB to see if you won the Calder that year. Who ended up taking it down?
Leach. Are you kidding me?
Leach. Okay, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to look because I like
so far above everybody else. That was Joe Sakic's rookie year, Trevor Lind. And then Tony Granato was somewhere down here in the mix of rookies that year. But Leachy was so, he's a Hall of Famer, and he was a Hall of Famer from the first day he stepped on the ice in New York. And,
I would have done anything to see him play in young, like the 1 year at BC, I think close to 50 points, like a true phenom.
Yeah. And the most modest, humble, low key, just show up and play, put his skates on and go out there and play.
Any Guy Lafleur stories, like anything that when you think about him, like you remember a few instances where he just left you in awe?
Every second I was there, I would just watch him because he was like a little kid going to his first training camp. I felt like he felt. That's what I think. He was so excited to put his skates on. This is one. Leachy and I went to one of the games, exhibition games, and we get there at 5 o'clock. We think we're kind of early. It's earlier than we get to college games. We walk in the dressing room, Flowers fully dressed, sitting in his stall like this.
Shut up.
We walk in
with his skates tied.
Skates weren't tied. They were late, but they weren't fully tied. Holding his stick, sitting in the stall by himself, and we're like, I think maybe we should have came earlier. That was one. And then the other thing was, as a rookie that wasn't supposed to make the team, they only ordered me probably 6 sticks. And back then we had the wooden sticks, so they didn't last very long. You whack a couple guys, they break, and pretty soon you're down to 1 or 2. I had to borrow Guy Lafleur's sticks because I ran out of sticks. So I used his sticks probably 5 or 6 games into my career and had to use them the rest of that year. So that year that I did well scoring, I was using Flowers sticks. The bad thing that I did was that I never asked Guy for one of his sticks or Marcel. On today's game, everyone's sticks and everyone's got a big stick collection. I was too nervous and too respectful to say, hey, Flower, can I have one of your sticks? So I didn't get one. But about 2 years ago, when he started to, his health started to deteriorate, I found one on eBay. And I looked at it through all the pictures, and I said, you know what? I examined it, and I said, that's his stick because I used it.
Wow.
I had one of my old ones. I ordered it. I bought it, and I got it in my basement now. And it lines up exactly with my stick, so I know it's his. So I did that. I bought that just to have something of Flowers because when he got sick there,
that's incredible.
I realized how special he was to me and how I wanted to have something from him. So I have that stick in my basement.
I also have to ask about Marcel Dion because I think for guys like maybe my age, like I'm turning 40 and definitely younger, and maybe it's because he was out in L.A. and Guy Lafleur's in Montreal, but like maybe the most underrated, under-talked about superstar of all time. Like what kind of guy was he when you got to play with him? Quiet, loud? Like I just know nothing about him, and you look at his numbers. I mean, one of the best to ever do it.
He was on the other end where Flower was. So Flower came in and Guy came in all excited and hyper and energy and just like a little kid. He was on the back end where he was tired and kind of sleepy and just kind of really reserved into himself, but again, at a level of respect on what he had done and still what he could do at that age was remarkable for me. But but complete opposites as far as Flower wanted to be right in the middle of what was going on with the guys and team. And Marcel was a little bit saying, I'm a little bit too old for this stuff. I'm kind of slowing down here. I'm going to kind of take it easy on some of the, energized hockey stuff. But really cool. Again, very unbelievable skilled at that age still. And Phil used him, and Michel Bergeron used him on the power play for most of that year. He's kind of a power play specialist.
But then I saw that year he ended up in the minors for a little bit. Like, do you remember when he got sent down, or how did that all come about?
Yeah, he started losing ice time, and I don't remember who got mad at who, and they just thought it'd be time to bring some younger players up. I don't really know how that happened. I thought he was still an effective player. But.
Outside of superstition, why was Guy Lafleur there like 4 or 5 hours before the game? Why was he doing that?
That's what he did, man. He did. And then go on the ice for practice. He was always the funny guy in practice that would find ways to make things humorous, no matter what was going on. Just happy, energized, and to me, as a player, that when you get older in your career, you would draw back on that, saying these kids are looking up to the older players to see if they're just going through the motions just to get through the day, or they're having fun with what they're doing. So that enthusiasm that he had kind of helped me realize that as I get older, I want to keep that same passion that he showed, so I could show others that I'm happy to be here. And that was really a big, a quality of that Flower had that lots of maybe older players kind of lose as they get older.
That's the first thing I remember about you from Penguins camp. Like, you were around the rink, you always had a smile on. You were so energetic, right? energy, and like you're happy to be. It's happy to be around you. So no, it definitely followed with you.
Thanks, Piss.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. I know it's the one thing I remember, man. It's a big impact.
He's getting his head punched in, but he's like, Tony's in a great mood.
Yeah. There you go, Piss. Good fight, buddy.
No,
hey,
as little as time we spent together, that's the one thing that stuck out. I want to say I said that to you on the way over to get coffee this morning.
He did.
Tony, when you played with Guy, what was the best career advice he gave you back then?
I think the fun part of it.
Okay.
And he didn't have to give it to me. I could see it.
Right.
And he took. That's why it surprised me so much that he was able to walk away and be away from the game for 3 years. And then, I don't know what he would have done in that time to bring that joy to himself. But you saw when he came back how much he missed it and appreciated it. And again, I wish I would have taken some pictures with him or done some different things with him to be able to celebrate that in a different way now. But I got his stick. I got those memories, and I know how lucky I was to have had that opportunity to play with him.
Well, the next year, you have an unbelievable rookie year, and the next year, maybe a little bit of a slow start. I'd like to get your opinion, but you get traded to LA, which probably turned out to be the best thing that ever could have happened to you based on what you did there. But take me through that first pro trade, how you found out, and basically how the season was going when the deal did go down.
You got dealt for Bernie Nichols.
Really?
Yeah.
Sandstrom and Granato. It was a 2-for-1. So it was, but Bernie I think Bernie had 80 goals the year before. And we were off to a little bit of a slow start as a team in New York. Roger Nielsen came in. He tried to change the philosophy on how to play defense. He taught me a ton about how to play without the puck, which was great. But I wasn't scoring that second year nearly as much as I did the first year. So the trade happened over the All-Star break. I ended up being back here in Madison, Wisconsin, visiting friends and family. When the trade happened, Bernie was playing in the All-Star game in Pittsburgh. And during the game, I'm watching the game on TV, and they say there's been a major trade in the NHL today. Bernie Nichols has been dealt to the New York Rangers, but the trade is going to be held till after the game because they're still trying to notify the players on the other end that are going to LA.
You were watching this live.
Watching it live.
Find out everything.
So I'm looking at this going, okay, they can't find somebody. Who the heck is it? I mean, I got to be part of this trade. And sure enough, maybe a couple hours later, maybe not even a couple hours later, they called my in-laws' house, and they found that I was in Madison. They called my in-laws' house. We didn't have cell phones back then, obviously. And they said, hey, we need to find Tony. Neil Smith needs to talk to Tony. So finally I called Neil up and he said, hey, Tony, you've been dealt in the trade, right? And a few minutes later, Neil gives Bruce McNall my number. Bruce McNall calls me, who was the owner of the Kings, and Bruce calls me up and says, Tony, we're so excited to have you. Gretz. After the game you played against the Kings last year, Gretz said, we need to get Granato on our team.
No way.
Holy shit.
That's what Bruce, I got to find out from Gretz if that's true. I never asked
He's
him.
like, who's that?
But I don't care. Bruce McNall told me that Gretz told me that. That's all that matters.
That's what he told everybody who came over.
It's like Gretz asked for you.
That didn't matter. I heard that. Gretzky knew who I was and wanted me on his team.
That's all you need. That's the confidence you needed.
I'm going to L.A. right now. And so the funny part is, it's like I said, during the All-Star break, I fly to Vancouver with Thomas Sands, whom I got traded with. We get to the Pan Pacific Hotel. We check into the hotel. Back then, you got roommates. I look at my key. Sandstrom looks at his key. We're in different rooms. Hey, excuse me, can you tell me who my roommate is? They tell me, yeah, you're with Sandstrom, I think, was with Kadulski. So I go, gosh darn it, who the heck is So I'm walking to the elevator with Sandstrom, and I'm nervous now, and I don't know who my roommate is. I'm with, I guess it's a guy from the minors or something. And we ran into Bob Miller, the broadcaster, and Bob's Tony, he's all excited because he was a Wisconsin Badger. Tony, it's so great to have you here. This is going to be awesome. And I said, hey, Bob, who's And he goes, oh, that's what Wayne registers under. So I go, holy cripe. Not only did I get traded to L.A., now I'm rooming with Gretz. So I got to my room that night, and Gretz was going to join the team the next day because he gave him an extra day off to fly back to L.A. after the All-Star game. He was going to fly in on game day. So I'm sitting in my room for one full day with knowing that when that door opens, Wayne's going to walk in, and that's my new roommate. So back at Wisconsin, my brother was playing here, Donnie, and a bunch of buddies were still back here. They would phone my hotel room every day, hoping that Wayne would answer the phone. So
you're like, why'd I tell him?
We'd have to put a do not disturb on our phone as soon as we got into every city because I didn't want those knuckleheads, calling to talk to Wayne. And anyhow, it was as a hockey player, could you have anything better in your life than have a chance to not only play on Wayne Gretzky's team, but be his roommate for a little bit? And it was incredible.
He's an encyclopedia too. I'm sure he would just talk hockey nonstop. And
he doesn't sleep, Biss. So post games, I'm tired. And we'd come in the room, and he'd turn the TV on after the games. He'd, whatever, we'd get back to the room. And he would go over every play that happened the entire game. And I'm like, Gretz, I can't remember that, man. And he got the details of everything that happened. And I learned more in those 2 or 3 hours post game than you could ever imagine listening to him talk about what happened.
He's a genius.
That's awesome.
Now, if you re-listen to this interview, we're gonna bleep that out because I still think he registers into hotels under that alias.
Uh-oh.
So
you bleep that out.
Oh, we will bleep it out. We don't want to blow up Wayne Gretzky's spot here.
I don't want him getting calls from all those guys.
All the seekers.
Well, R8 now knows. So we're
Hi,
Yeah. Wayne's gonna walk.
Gretz can't be creative enough to change his name at the hotel.
But maybe he's superstitious. It's been going good all these years, so why change it up, right?
I agree with you.
Hey, Crosby. I think Crosby learned that from him too, and he registers under an alias as well. We can't drop it, but it has to do with one of his favorite movies. But all right, I'll send it over to you here. These are great stories, man. We really appreciate these because we have such a younger demographic now. So hearing all these old school stories, I don't know how many times you've retold them, but this is all new to us, man, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, you get to LA. There's another old Montreal Canadian there too. Big Bird, Larry Robinson. What was he like? He was a real character, they said back in the day.
It's the same thing though about having fun and smiling and laughing every single second of the day. He's a jokester, but happy. But yeah, it was great. When I got to LA, what I loved about that and Bruce is Bruce brought Yari Curry, Paul Coffey, Rick Tocchet, Charlie Huddy, Grant Fuhr, lots of superstars into that environment. Probably one to sell tickets and to bring some names in, and also people that Gretz knew and trusted to bring into the locker room that could add something to our team. But I got lucky when I went there. Dave Taylor, Luc Robitaille. I go on and on about all of the guys, but Larry was one of those guys that I just was fortunate enough to cross paths with and learn from and watch. And that the part about the great players that they all have in common, how much they loved being on the ice and playing hockey.
Oh,
and
I couldn't agree more.
You talked about Gretz. You put Larry Robinson in there. You put Guy Lafleur in there for me, and Chris Chelios in there. They just love putting their skates on and going on and being on that sheet of ice and playing. And those are the things that all those guys have as the same characteristic.
Oh, you guys must have had some good times in LA too. Like, what was it a bit of a culture shock going out there to play pro hockey? Just given that you were in NYC and all of a sudden you're in LA, where you're probably leaving the rink and not getting recognized and just getting.
And was the building packed then? Were you guys selling out every game? Yeah, with Gretzky.
Oh yeah,
I guess.
the forum with Gretz and Luke and Dave Taylor and Kelly Rudy. Kelly Rudy was a big fan favorite there as well. And then Blakey was coming in, and we did. We had the run in '93 when we lost in the final to Montreal. We were so darn close, and Yari came back, and Koff was there for a while. Talk was there for a while. We had a heck of a group of professional players, and guys that, like, when you're done playing with, you're like so thankful that you had an opportunity, even if it was only for a year, to play with guys like that.
You mentioned Yari Curry. There's another guy, like we were just saying about Dion, very not so much underrated. He's in the Hall of Fame, but he kind of flies under the radar. Why is that so much with Curry, you think?
Maybe being European, but those years it was funny because when he came back to LA, he went to Europe for a year after Edmonton. Then we traded for him in the summer, and then I was playing on Gretz's line the year before. So Yari comes back. Obviously, Yari Curry, who had 600 some goals playing with Wayne in Edmonton, is going to play with Wayne. And that was the year that they ended up actually in '93 went to the finals. They moved Yari to center. So Gretz had line mates of Warren Reichel and Thomas Sandstrom. And then Curry played with Robitaille and Taylor. And then I played on a line with Corey Millen and Mike Donnelly, two other Americans that were I was the biggest guy in the line by a lot, guys. 165. Those guys are 5'8", 5'7", maybe Corey's 5'7". Mike might be 5'9". So, but we were a small line. And they used to make a ton of fun of us and call us a Smurf line. Our own team, Marty McSorley was the biggest one that would, the Smurf line, you little whatever, and that was. But I remember about Yari being not just a great scorer, but being able to change positions for our team needs to help us go to the finals and come really close to winning a Stanley Cup.
That 92-93 year was your career year. I know there was a season with more goals, but points-wise, and I got to wonder that, or imagine that, with the depth on that team, and Gretzky kind of being out injured, was he out injured for part of that regular season, so you maybe got a little extra ice time?
First half of the year, the back injury.
Okay.
So the back injury happened at training camp. And then I remember Bruce called some of the older players. He called me, probably Yari, Luke, maybe Blakey, I don't know who, but a bunch of us into a room and said, guys, we just got some bad news. Gretz might be done. And we're like, what do you mean done? They go, he had a back injury happen and that they diagnosed a disc issue and not sure if he's ever going to play again. And we're like, what?
Holy shit.
That's the start of that year. And we were overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my gosh. And, so anyways, fortunately enough, during the year, we could see Gretz progress and start do some different things. His back was getting better. And we grinded through the first half of the year and did really well without him, with the inspiration of trying to inspire him.
Yeah.
We'll hold the fort together for a little while, but man, we need you back. And he came back that year. He was as he always was. He was great. He had that Game 7 in Toronto with the 3 goals that helped us get to the finals, which was, I think he still says was one of his greatest games ever. But from a teammate standpoint, to see him step up and just say, hey guys, we're not losing tonight, we're winning and we're going to the finals, was what I remember most about that night. And then there was the night before we lost in Game 6 at home to Toronto. No, did we win in overtime? Maybe we won in overtime in Game 6 to force a Game 7. And I think Luke scored in Game 6. When we were going back to Toronto, everyone in the media was writing Wayne off as he's slowing down, doesn't have it anymore.
He's got a piano on
Bob
his back.
McKenzie.
Bob
McKenzie. Thank you. That's what it was. Piano on his back. And we're like, are they crazy saying that? I go, what are they watching? And then sure enough, man, he stepped up. And as teammates, we couldn't be more happier for him after that game.
Yeah.
To everybody, could look back at the media and say, sorry, guys, you were wrong again. And that was really special. I just wish we could have finished that off because that meant so much to him. Going back to L.A., he didn't go back to L.A. to do anything except help the LA Kings win a Stanley Cup. Yes, it was great for the game. Yes, there's teams all over the United States now because Wayne did do that. So we can't forget the impact that he had on the growth of our game by him going to LA. But he went back there to win a Stanley Cup. And I think as teammates, we felt so bad that we didn't do enough to help him achieve that goal after that series. But he was like always so classy and proud of all of us on him saying the opposite, how we went through the wall for him to try to help him, make that his special way of his contributions to LA. But whatever.
Not to mention, it would have been taken down Toronto and Montreal, like the exact opposite of the LA Kings, to get it done. But still an amazing run. Another guy I got to ask about, because one of the all-time greatest goal scorers of all time, Luc Robitaille, but people were always dogging his skating. And as a teammate, and when you played against him, was it a little better than people gave him credit for? Or was it one of those things where you're like, he's horrible at skating?
He couldn't skate. That's okay. He didn't need to skate. He only stood in an area about 5 by 8, a little hula hoop area around the net. He was there. When the puck was there, it was in the net. Luke's so funny because I still give him crap to this day. So on the power play, most of the times I followed him, because I'd have Luke. Luke would be on the first unit. I'd probably be on the second unit. And he would never come near the bench when they iced the puck. He'd find a way to go far away from the bench. So like, hey, Luke, change. He either was deaf and couldn't hear, or he was smart enough to not come near the bench that he wouldn't have to change. So I still give him crap to this day about that. But in the big picture of things, him tired at a 2-minute shift was way better than me being out there 30 seconds fresh as far as having a chance to score. So he was smart. He did the right thing.
I want to go back to McSorley, that stick penalty in game one. It swung the momentum so much. After that, were players kind of maybe talking privately, like how did that happen? Was it on McSorley? Was it on Barry Melrose? Like the fact he was playing with an illegal stick at that portion of the game?
No, we're teammates.
Okay.
We're teammates. There's mistakes made. There's penalties that happen. There's situations that happen during games that sometimes aren't, what you want them to happen. But Marty backed us and was there for us every second of the way. If we wouldn't have Marty, we'd have never even been close to the finals. So he was one of those guys that, like, it happened. As killers, we should have found a way to kill that penalty off. Montreal took advantage of it and did change some momentum of it. But Marty, I loved as a teammate. He's same thing I told you about Chris Nyland. He did for me in LA. He did it for everybody. So a ton of respect for everything that Marty did as a teammate. So no, there was never any, of course we were disappointed we lost the game. We lost 3 games in a row in overtime. John LeClaire had 2 of those goals. Brisebois had the one in that game. So we were close. Patty Waugh, Kelly Rudy was phenomenal for us in our net, but Patty Waugh made some saves, and he had won 10 overtime games in a row that playoffs.
Wow.
It was just one of those years. It didn't matter what we did and how we did it. It wasn't meant to be. And so Marty was fantastic.
So you guys were aware that he had a bit of a banana hook that he would use in special.
There were multiple sticks on our bench that were banana hooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they picked Marty's. However, and how they picked Marty's, I don't know.
Guy Carbonneau, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just somebody's taking credit for it because they won, But there were rumors that they broke into our locker room the night before and measured them before to make to double check. There's lots of stuff going around on how that stick actually was called, but regardless, it was again an incident that happened again from a penalty killer standpoint, from a teammate standpoint. I was like, hey guys, let's rally and get this thing done, and unfortunately, Brisebois pounded one home. And then pounded another one home in overtime, and we went back to LA tied 1-1. You go on the road in the first 2 games, you split on the road, you're in decent shape, but the next 2 games, we lost in overtime again. So
what was Barry Melrose like as a coach? I mean, he only coached one other team after LA. He seemed like quite the character between the suits and the hair and everything. What was he like as a coach, though?
He was great for our team because he took a lot of the pressure and different things off of Wayne and other things in a different way. He handled the media in a way that was kind of unique. I thought he did a phenomenal job with us, and we had lots of characters on our team. You mentioned Marty. There were lots of others, personalities on that group, and he got us all to play for each other and together. And sometimes it's hard when you get all these different personalities and these different stars to be able to come together like that. Your coach has to be in a position to be able to know how to handle these personalities, and I thought he did. Like I told you about the line combinations, you got Yari to get off Gretz's line to play center. You got Warren Reichel, who is basically, I don't want to be too hard on Warren, but he's basically a fourth line crashing banger, playing first line with Wayne Gretzky in the Stanley, all the way through the Stanley Cup playoffs and being productive. So he was able to put our team together and have us be at our best.
This is kind of an obligatory question for any guy who played for the Kings back then, but you must have been in the Forum Club a couple times back then, huh?
You've been dying to ask that question. Fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, I was married. So
okay.
I was married at that time. So I was in there. Let the single guys and the guys that were a little bit before me tell you more about the Forum Club. But it was a special place. You go in there. But the thing that was cool about being in LA at that time, Bruce McNall was friends with everybody in Hollywood, and everybody in Hollywood wanted to meet Wayne Gretzky and be around Wayne Gretzky. Wayne, in that town, Wayne was the biggest of the biggest stars there. You could be a movie star, it didn't matter. Wayne Gretzky was Wayne Gretzky. So everybody wanted a picture or to meet Wayne. So we had our locker room post game was filled with super, super Hollywood people. And that part was cool. I didn't know who half of them were because I didn't pay attention to lots of the stuff that was going outside the hockey world back then. But they were all there.
Any of them like a real peckerhead or act like a dickhead, or you hear stories of what actors kind of giving the small people a shove off? Were they pretty nice because you guys were stars as well? They kind of thought you were on the same level.
Most of the ones that I met were extremely nice.
Yeah,
and cordial and respectful and all that stuff. Goldie Hawn was one of my favorites because I did like Goldie, and her and Kurt Russell used to sit right on the glass.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this story since we brought up Goldie Hawn. So you remember Whit, you probably remember too. I got a big suspension one year.
Yeah, the longest in the history of the league at the time.
No,
right?
no.
Yes, it was. No, at the time it was a 15-gamer. Neil Wilkinson, and you gave him a two-hander, and you got a 15-gamer.
I gave him a two-hander. If you remember where it happened on the ice, it was right inside the blue line along the bench side, okay? The two seats of the people that were closest to it, literally 3 feet from the incident, were Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. So I do this. Wilkinson knocks me down. I give him a little thing over the head. I'll call it.
Love tap.
So I get kicked out of the game, okay? And I'm embarrassed. I realized what I did as I was going back. I get undressed in like 3 seconds. I'm in a towel. Goldie comes running into the locker room. Only Goldie Hawn, just me and Goldie Hawn in the locker room. I got a little towel wrapped around my waist, and she comes up. She wants to hug me. She goes, "That was the coolest thing. He deserved it. You were so." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what the heck's happening right now?" So I want to see Goldie again at some point to ask her if she remembers what she did to me that day, as far as making me turn completely red, and I'm hanging on to my towel.
Did you ask her if she could pay your fine?
No, I don't. She just said that guy. Here's where that guy deserved that so much. He was taunting you. That was her words.
I was just going to ask you about that, but then I don't want to say a couple years later you sustained a pretty bad brain injury. I believe in the '96 season, and you ended up being out for about 6 months and a day. How did that all happen? And take us through that.
All right, real quick. We were in Hartford playing with LA, crashed into the boards, chasing an icing call down, and I got smacked. I went head first in the boards. I turned and then kind of slapped my head into the boards, and then got up. You shake it off. Hey, I'm good. You kind of see your little things that go in front of you. What they say, stars. I don't know what they are.
Tweety bird,
whatever they are. You guys know. And as a hockey player, you don't want to show you're hurt. So you jump up, you go back down there, you go to the bench, and the trainer comes to you and says, "You doing all right?" You say, "Yeah, I'm good, I'm fine." You spray a little water on your face, you go back out there. And then I didn't think anything was real bad until 2 days later when we played an afternoon game against Anaheim. So I played another game. And during the game in Anaheim, I couldn't focus or realize what the heck was going on in the game. It was one of those games. Some games you get into and you're a little foggy. This game, I was a complete fog. Nothing was registering on how the game was supposed to be going on. I get through the game.
Jesus.
And then the next day is when the symptoms really started to come, where I got really sick and my memory started to go bad places. And then got some surgery, fixed up. And then was fortunate enough that the doctor that did the surgery said, "Hey, I'm not sure I'm going to, allow you to play again, but in a couple weeks we'll find out." But I put a couple extra fasteners in there when I fixed it up, and just in case. And I'm thinking, man, oh man, this guy thinks I might be able to play again someday. So I was fortunate enough. A couple weeks later, I went back to see him, and he said, "Start working out, see what you feel like working out." And I did, and when I started to feel good, I'm thinking, man, oh man, I want to play again. And I did. So I got to play again 6 months later, signed with San Jose, and got what I call 5 bonus years out of the deal, because I thought when the injury happened and you have the surgery, you think you're done, but got to play 5 more years.
It was brain bleeding, correct? Was what?
It was brain. Yeah, I had a bleed. I had the blow had caused some bleeding, and when they first diagnosed it, they thought that the bleeding would subside, that had stopped. And then I waited it out about 7 or 8, maybe 10 more days. And I started feeling worse and more sick and more memory issues, and went back to a special doctor. And he did another scan and saw that it was still bleeding. And it said, "Hey, go across the street right now. We have to do surgery today.
Jesus.
We have to stop it." And then so I was lucky from the standpoint that I went to the right guy in time to get it fixed up, and again, fortunate for me. And again, I think some of the things, when you look back on it, you go, man, was that dumb to come back to play? But part of being dumb was part of being why you were good at certain things, because you didn't get scared of things. You weren't scared of, and so I'm mad at myself for coming back to play, but I'm also proud of myself that I decided, hey, what the heck? Doctor said I could be okay. Let's do it.
Why you played is basically why you made the NHL. It sounds crazy. It's like, I'm not hurt, I could play. That's an amazing story though, and you think to now, and luckily just you get better care. They're a little more careful, because when it comes to your head, I mean, that just must have been so scary to be told, hey, we're going over to the hospital right now and getting surgery today. Like, to end up playing 5 more years after that is just probably a miracle if you really think about it.
Well, I get it. I was lucky. And again, you guys know the same thing. Biss, how many times did you get knocked out in a fight? How many times did you get at the end of the fight, you were somewhat concussed?
I don't think we knew what it was back then. You kind of.
But how many times now when you evaluate?
I would probably say a good 10.
Yeah,
at least.
Correct. Okay, same thing. Wits, how many times did you get KO'd?
Oh, he didn't touch the corner.
Yeah, no, but I still got run over. I remember even growing up, probably like 8 to 10 times in my life, you're definitely probably shouldn't be playing right after, and I'm just like, whoa, I don't feel great, but can't leave the game. So
you can't let your teammates down or show you're hurt. You can't do it.
Yeah,
that was the way it was, and we did it, and that's what we lived by, and that's why we made it. But today, it's obviously you get some sort of concussion symptoms, and you're out 7 days. Mm-hmm. We watch all the time. It's better because, like, obviously we're looking out for the health and betterment of our players. But in those days, I remember getting knocked out my first year with the Rangers. Luke Richardson knocked me out, and I slid on the ice from outside the blue line all the way to the end boards, knocked out, sliding along the ice, and stopped at the end boards weren't there. I'd probably still be going. And I remember going to the doctor the next day, telling him, I'm fine, man. I don't have a headache. I'm good, man. I can play. And they let me play. And I lied to the doctor, but I felt, I'm a teammate. There's no way. Guy Lafleur's playing. Marcel Dionne's playing. I'm playing, man. I'm okay.
Exactly.
And that was part of being a pro player. Then were we smart? No. But were we good teammates? Darn right we were. And those were the things I remember about, playing with Tocchet, playing with Chelios, playing with Suter, playing with all of the players that you have so much respect for, is we did it for each other. We didn't do it to try to make money. We didn't do it to try to do anything else, except we loved playing hockey. And that was a great part of the memories I have about those teammates.
In those 5 years in San Jose, is that when you knew I want to coach, or was that one of those things your entire life as a player, like someday I want to coach when I'm done playing?
No. Here's the real deal on that. So when I got there, Dean Lombardi, one of the first things he said to me is, he said, Tony, I'm bringing you here because of your experience and the character that you have, and you're going to teach these kids, Patrick Marleau's, Jeff Friesen's, the kids that we had coming in, you're going to help them learn how to be pros. That's what I want you to do. So I began my coaching before I left. Marco Stern was another one. There's lots of them. And so Dean helped me get ready for life after.
Wow.
Because my assignment was to basically start, mentoring these kids, but more a little bit, not necessarily in a coaching way, but starting to think along those lines. So I got a little bit of an experience while playing kind of what it was going to be like after. So I was lucky from that standpoint. So when you get older, man, your ice time goes like this. I mean, you're playing 20 minutes, you're playing power play 1 year, you're down to 17, 15, and then Daryl came, I was down to like 7 minutes. You know, I had to stay awake on the bench sometimes. I'd have to stand up and do jumping jacks on the bench, get ready in case my next shift was coming at any point soon. But that was kind of the pre-coaching phase of my playing career.
When it came to sign that deal, Tony, were teams scared off because of the injury? Did you get a lot of offers, or were there few because of that injury?
3 teams I talked to that year. One of them was Chicago, because I was from Chicago. I kind of wanted to go back to Chicago. That didn't work out. I came in for a physical. One of the doctors there was a little bit nervous about clearing me. And then I was talking to Vancouver as well. And then, so there were teams that were scared. I went to Mayo Clinic. I went to the University of Wisconsin Hospital to see the head neurosurgeon there. And I went to the head neurosurgeon at UCLA that did the surgery for me. I went to 3 separate parties with all of the information, redid tests and scans for them at those places to make sure that I knew that I was making a decision that the doctors could support me in. So I kind of was comfortable with it. Some of the NHL teams weren't, but San Jose right away, as soon as I became a free agent on I don't remember, it was July 1st, I guess it was, Dean Lombardi called, said, I need to fly you into San Jose. I want to get you here. We're struggling to find older players that can come in and help our younger guys along. And that's where I, felt that was the right fit for me at that time, and it worked out really well.
How was your relationship with Daryl at that time? Because I mean, he's still, I don't know how many clips you see now. He's still up to his old antics, and I imagine.
How can he get away with it today? What he did, that 25 years ago, 30 years ago. He's just, to me, I loved Daryl and I hated Daryl at the same time, because I loved his intensity and his competitiveness, but there are parts of me that I'd go home at night and wouldn't be able to sleep because some of the things that happened during the day. But the respect I have for him from wanting to win and doing everything he could to try to motivate and get players going was unique. And whether it was Mike Keenan style or old school style, motivate by fear and hate and screaming and yelling and kicking, it didn't matter. I think Daryl changed, as it went along for sure, because when he got to LA, and they won the cups, and what he's doing now, he's a phenomenal coach now. Back then, he was all motivating by, whether it be intimidation, by fear, by yelling and screaming. He's added and become and grown into what he needs to be a successful coach now. Back then, I would have never guessed it. I don't know. I didn't think he'd be able to change and adjust because of how he was. But I got a ton of respect for him on how he's done it. I love the pictures when I see him and Christopher, his son. I just saw a tweet the other day of him hugging his son after one of the games. That's who he is. He's a phenomenal person. Sometimes as a coach, he gets to one extreme that some people aren't real crazy about. I was not crazy about it at times. But like I said, I got a ton of respect, and I love the man.
Another intense guy in that locker room, Owen Nolan. He was pretty intense guy to
he
play
looked like
with.
the grumpiest motherfucker of all time.
Yeah. Tough Irishman. But he did point on Hasek. Did he score on Hasek in the All-Star game in San Jose, where he pointed top shelf and he went boom, score. He called the shot. That's what I remember Owen about. But Owen, I got to see, unfortunately, for all of us that were friends with Brian Marchment, when Brian passed last summer, about, I'd say 15 to 20 of us teammates from that era from San Jose went up into Ontario somewhere, I don't know, north of Toronto, for his funeral. And we all got together, and that was special in itself. Mush was kind of that glue guy that was kind of, if you didn't play with Mush, you didn't like Mush, because he was borderline dirty. I don't know a better way to say it. But when he's on your team and you realized who he was, you would love him like nobody else. And his way of connecting and keeping us together, he was in charge of a group chat with Ricci, Nabokov, Suter, Marlowe. He had probably 20 of us on there, and every couple weeks or month, he would send a text out that would be goofy as heck And I'm thinking, why would he do that? And he would do it so we all would make sure we could stay connected. Scott Thornton was in that group. Bunch of Danny McGillis, who wasn't even on our team that year, became part of that group. So we all showed up at the funeral, and I think that's what really you realize how special it is to have a group of people that love and care about each other the way hockey players do. And we can brag about our sport in so many different ways about why it's the best sport in the world, but ultimately it's the people and the characters and the groups that you're able to share something special with. You know, we already talked about how many guys I mean, we mentioned 15 players or 20 players already. And if they called today and asked me to do something for them, 1 second. If I called and asked them to do something for me, 1 second. And no doubt they would do it for me because we're teammates. We love each other. We're brothers. That's why hockey's so special. And you guys are creating a forum, I think, that allows us players to come back. That's why you get so many guests. That's why you get so many stories that people love to share, because that's what we love to do. We love being part of this special group of people that are the best. That's it. We're the best.
I was going to say, it's awesome to see that you're still going as a coach. And you mentioned those mentors you had when you first stepped into the NHL, Guy Lafleur, Marcel Dion. Who were the guys when you first started as a coach who helped you, took you under their wing and really helped you evolve and stay in that role?
Well, the couple. One thing I drew back on Bob Johnson, who we talked about, that I had a small opportunity to play for in the Canada Cup in 1991. He had a tremendous impact. He was long gone. He died in 1991, right after I had him as coach. But I'll never forget how he presented himself and how he coached and how he taught. And that's who I, said, if I'm going to be a coach, I think he's the guy that I would model myself after. Barry Melrose was one. Daryl Sutter was some in lots of ways. Some of them you learn from on how you want to be and how you not want to be. Yeah. So you learn both good and bad from all of them. But, Larry Robinson, I had Larry Robinson. I was lucky because I had a wide variety of different kinds of coaches over my career. And, so I think from a mentorship side of things, just kind of the mentor and the guy that was Bob Johnson for sure.
Tony, how much, if at all, have you had to adjust your coaching style over the last, 15, 20 years, given the way, I guess, kids have changed in that time frame? As far as growing up with cell phones and all that shit.
All the time. I mean, you really do. You just got to adjust, and you can't get outdated with the kids. You can't separate yourself and use your era and try to teach them your era to where they're in. It's totally different times. You talked about injuries and things like that. There's lots of times where I'd like to tell the kid, hey, you got to play through this.
I know.
But then you're listening to your doctor and your trainer. You make him play through it, and he gets hurt, and then we're done. We're all fired and kicked out, and we're sued because you just told the player to play that potentially has an injury that might be something more significant. So there's lots of different adjustments, I think, as a coach that you have to just be aware of. But I love being around the kids because they help me understand them a lot better. So I think you got to stay connected with them. From our side of things, we recruit kids that are 16, 17, and we get to know them a couple years before they get here. I think getting to know the dynamics of their family dynamics and what motivates them and the different, things that are going on in their life that you can kind of, help yourself grow up and mature and understand.
Tony, speaking of kids, you had Cole Caulfield for 2 years at Wisconsin. What was that recruitment process like? And do you have any good stories of like an 18-year-old Cole?
Sure. I mean, that's easy. Cole was a Wisconsin kid. He was committed to Ohio State. Fortunately for us, he decided he wanted to stay in the state and he decided to decommit, come here. Cole was easy to coach from the standpoint, the hockey part of it, you had nothing to teach him. His ability to score and shoot a puck was as good as any player that I've played with or coached. And I'm talking Sakic, talking,
he can rip it. He can rip it.
and it's a whole different level of goal scoring. The part that Cole needed maturity on was to figure out what's he going to have to do. So when he gets to Montreal, this is a conversation we had, and I guess I'll share it with him. I don't like sharing a lot of stories between player and coach relationships, but what Cole had to do was to put himself in a position when he got to Montreal that Gallagher, Price, Weber, all of the veteran players wanted him on their team. So eventually, when you're going to make that next step to get to be a pro player, it's not the coach and the GM who decide whether you're going to be on the team for me. It's the teammates. It's Whit and Biss. Are you going to allow this guy into your locker room because he's going to help you, because he's going to take someone else's spot? So he's got to beat one of your buddies out. So I think that's the biggest lesson for kids to understand is when you go to make your next team at the next level, you're taking someone else's job, and someone else's job was somebody else's buddies that were together through battle in that locker. So you got to figure out how are you going to fit in to show respect to all those guys and add something to their team that's going to help them win. And that's where Cole, I think, really matured as a kid, really understood about, geez, when I get to Montreal, I want to be a great teammate. I want to go in there and I want those guys to cherish what I can bring to them, but I want them to love me for, who I am. And I think he's just done a phenomenal job of it. He played his 100th game the other day at 40 goals in his first 100 games in the NHL. So he's off to a phenomenal start. And the smile and the energy that he brings to not just his team, but to hockey is really cool to watch as well.
When he was going through the struggle, sorry, I went to the bathroom for a quick minute. When he was having those struggles, did he reach out to you at all when at the beginning of last season?
Well, he did. Unfortunate thing, if you remember it, he got COVID and got stuck in Dallas. You remember that? Him and Arnia. Remember, the two of them got stuck, and then they went back to Montreal. He couldn't cross the border, so he needed somewhere to go. Well, come on back to Madison, Cole.
We'll get your eligibility back, too. Will help us win a couple games. That would have been good,
too, but we got some medicine for you. So here's some things that, that you're going through that when you get back there, so it was good because he got to see his brother. His brother Brock is still here. I got to come back and feel good about himself about being around the college thing, and he jumped on the ice with us for a couple practices. And then he went back and things started to go a little bit better for him. So I'm not saying because he got COVID, because he came to Madison, things got going for him. But I think just, taking a little bit of break in the middle of all that stuff when it wasn't going well was a good thing for him mentally, kind of refocus. But, you guys all know there's growing pains when you make it to that league that you're going to deal with that just they're going to happen. And fortunately for him, they happened early. And fortunately for him, he got out of it real fast. And he's doing great.
In all honesty, that was such a great interview. And I want to say, I'm a BU guy, but when it comes to out west, I know we got possible young kids, future recruits listening. Wisconsin, the campus, the atmosphere. I know you said a little bit of a tough start this season, but I'll tell everyone, at least take a visit.
Hey,
it's
no
an
free
amazing
ads,
place
no free
to play.
ads.
So, you don't even know colleges. So we appreciate it, and congrats to you on all your success playing and coaching. So thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys for, again, like the game of hockey is special, and for you guys to be able to share different stories and bring new fans and new people to understand why we think it's so special, I think has been cool. So great job by you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, you, Tony.
Huge thanks to Tony Granato for coming on with us. What a fucking great conversation that was. Classic American player biz. Did you know him before the interview at all?
He was an assistant coach with the Pittsburgh Penguins when I was there for training camp one year. So we spent a little bit of time, but super positive in the locker room. He helped me on the ice a little bit, always had, kind things to say, and just, kind of kept in touch with him through the years a little bit. But an awesome guy, an incredible career, and some great stories, like the backstory with Gretzky.
Yeah.
I hope you bleeped out that name because I'm pretty sure he still goes under that alias on the road.
we did.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm brain dead, so I just forgot what you actually talked about that in the interview, but it's been a little while.
Yeah,
Long weekend. So a lot of teams got guys coming back, a lot of teams losing guys. Detroit's Jacob Vrana, after he had a stint with the assistance program now. Hopefully he's doing all right. He's doing a 3-game conditioning stint in Grand Rapids, so the Wings are getting him back. Also expecting Robbie Fabry back and Philip Zadina. So this is a team, a few points out, a couple additions like that, man. They could give a little burst.
Yeah,
in the
that
playoffs.
Zadina kid was a high draft pick. I still think they're waiting for him to pop off in the goal scoring category. That was the big thing on him coming in. So hasn't really found his touch offensively, like from a sustainable standpoint yet. But if they can start getting those young guys contributing, man, look out. I mean, you mentioned them in Buffalo as those kind of sleeper young teams in the mix.
Like those wild card spot teams right now. But I talked to Stevie actually in when they were in Pittsburgh.
Stevie Y?
Stevie Y.
What'd you do? Going to his?
I went into his GM's room.
Get the fuck out of here.
I was freaking out. I know I wanted to
How
say hi
nervous
to
were
him.
you?
So
Did
nervous.
you do this on your own, or were you told?
On my own.
So you were like, I'm just going in. And
yeah,
I'm just
so
gonna
he was the
introduce
GM
myself.
of our team at Worlds. I played a couple times.
Yeah.
Remember he called me after that year in Pittsburgh? We were at the Pirates game, and he's like, hey, it's Stevie Y. I'm like,
what?
Yeah, good one, buddy. So I shared that story with him there, too. But coming out of the Christmas break
You
was
guys won
funny.
gold, right?
Yeah, we won gold. But like coming out of the Christmas break, he told me, because I'd been drinking after the season ends, we were like Pirates game, and I said, I was like, I'm nervous to like go, like, oh my God, I haven't skated in like 6 days. Like, you know how bad? He's like, buddy, it's like riding a bike. From Stevie Y tells you that. You all of a sudden turn into like a star in your head. So it was out of the Christmas break. I shared that story with him. He was loving it because I said, after coming out of the Christmas break, it's like riding a bike. His team was down like 4-2 at the time. But they ended up coming back and winning.
You
but like,
used
he's
the line
man.
back on him?
Yeah.
Did he love it?
Yeah, he loved it. He loved it. And he loved you guys. He's very complimentary. And I said I was doing some stuff and coming up here for Boston. He was laughing and he loved it. And
did you ask
he
him
loved
if
the
he would
Chiclets.
Did he have the
games.
sweater on over the?
Oh, he just looks so good. Like my wife loves him too. Like she's like, oh my God, Stevie. I'm like, he's so good looking, you know, like he's just a stud.
Is that
stallion?
Is that Mel's hall pass?
Yeah. It's my hall pass.
Just a
so I went in there and said hi to him.
So then they had a 2-on-1 in the box.
So yeah, it was great to wheel in there and say hi to him. I just wanted to say like Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to Stevie Y. He's a beauty and loved you guys.
Your hands are shaking.
I wanted to share that with you guys though. He was like really happy about it and stuff and loved it. So
did you slide in a hey, maybe we could do an interview down the road?
Yeah, I did. I was like, hey buddy, like, you should come.
Notes,
I was
maybe.
like, I didn't know he hasn't done it yet. You just got him on TNT, right? Where
Stevie Bong Rips.
Stevie Bong
Yeah,
Rips.
Biz turned him into a full-blown pothead
like,
degenerate. So if we get him, that's when you know this guy's powerful.
Yeah, Stevie Y's like Spicoli now because of you.
It's like the league here.
The guy's never smoked weed in his life.
He's like
he's
a
just
good
known
guy.
as a burnout to the whole NHL.
I was so nervous going there to say hi to him though, and I brought up all you guys and everything though, and he was loving it. So great dude. It was really cool to see him. Like freaking Stevie Y, man.
He's gonna start
Stevie
locking
Y.
his door.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I left, hey, who left this door unlocked? Guy's an idiot.
He's one of those guys that has an aura about him. I seen the press box a few years back, and he like kind of like freezing your steps.
And he's excited about his team too, like the guys they added and getting some guys going again, as you were saying, RA. Like that's
pool's high.
Yeah.
I saw yesterday a guy was walking through the lobby with a Team Canada 91 jersey. So it was Sakic. I believe it was from the 02 Olympics. So Yzerman's on the team. I wondered, like, Yzerman got 19 over Sakic. I didn't know how that worked out.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Veteran.
Is Yzerman older? Is Yzerman older? Okay,
Yeah.
he's that much older than him. All right, yeah, I just got a kick out of that. Having Joe Sakic change his number for you. That's when you know.
Imagine that. They're like, hey, how many Calders? Did you get a Calder? I did. Hey, how many Hearts?
How many MVPs?
They're like comparing like their awards to see who gets 19. Us losers are
Me
like,
and you were
rock,
looking at
paper,
our second assists in the minors. I'm like, all right, 21 second apples, the locko here.
How many games you play in the coast? Oh,
Detroit will be interesting
yours.
though. Like wild card, like I said though too. Like Detroit will be interesting. I think keep an eye on that team, right, Murph? That's
my
your
team.
squad.
Yeah, shout out to my
My
boy
over
Newsy
points
getting
is
it done.
looking
I'm
really
really
nice.
doing a
yeah.
great job. Yeah.
Yeah, what was the over points? 80?
It was, what was it, 79 and a
Yeah,
half, I think it was.
that's looking good.
Yeah, that's easy. We got that one.
Carolina's Max Pacioretty back on the ice, practicing with the Canes without the no contact jersey gone. He's on track to return in January after the torn Achilles he suffered back in August. I mean, it's another team that fucking on fire lately. You had a sniper like that.
Yeah, Biz brought that one up.
We've legit talked about that this episode already.
Sorry, but
Smoke more weed, turtle.
Yeah, that's what happens when we jump fucking 20 steps ahead. Carter Hart suffered a concussion. Dude, Rasmus Ristolainen and buries fucking Seth Jarvis. And why did defensemen do this? Bury guys in the
I've
fucking
talked to
goalies,
this
man.
about you before.
I know,
It's like
but it happened again.
You're not. It can look so bad, but a defenseman is either going to not touch a guy who's driving the net, or he's going to try to push him a little bit, and then sometimes it goes into the goalie. It's like it's the biggest lose for D-men. You either look like a complete idiot by not even putting a finger on a guy,
trying.
or you push him and it somehow hits the goalie. It's like. It's not like you always bring it up. Like, what are the defensemen doing?
Do you want the guy online tweeting you about being a pussy for not touching the guy going to the net, or do you want to be the guy getting chirped online for pushing
even
the
online,
guy?
you're a coach.
By the way,
Not
I
gonna
got
go
chirped
out.
for both.
Hey, worst one ever for that I remember was when did the Canes win the cup? 06?
Yeah.
When remember Dwayne Rollison?
Yeah, Rolly.
Was it Rolly got hit? Someone hit Bergeron, I think the defenseman, hit a guy into him and took Rolly out in like the final.
And that guy was unbeatable.
And he was on fire that year too. And the
Liquid
exact
Dueno?
same play you're
Liquid
talking
Dueno.
about. Yeah.
The drunkest
Liquid
guy in
Dueno.
Edmonton during
Liquid
that run.
Dueno. He said he was going to go play soccer as a professional goalie too. They're like, have you played? He's like, no.
But that was like a big moment to that exact play, RA.
Okay, good point there. The Blues are going to be struggling for a bit. Torrey Kruger's on long-term injury reserve for lower body injury. Going to be evaluated in 6 weeks. The Blues also placed Ryan O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko on injured reserve. O'Reilly got a broken foot, going to be looked at again in 6 weeks. Tarasenko going to be looked at in 4 weeks. Hand injury. Blues 17-17-3, 5 points back of the second wild card right now.
Pretty much worst case Ontario right there with those two guys being hurt, because if I'm Armstrong, I'm selling and I'm looking towards the future.
So that means you're selling everything almost.
I think you're looking to sell as much as possible, man.
Like trade O'Reilly.
Here's the thing.
Trade Tarasenko.
I think Ryan O'Reilly is the type of guy, like he doesn't need to take a hometown discount there. If he wants to stay and he's willing to sign for cheap, and you can solidify your second to third line center, and this is no disrespect to him, he's slowing down now.
Yep.
He's
at least this year.
Slowing down offensively. I think slotting him as a second line center is fair, but you're going to need to save money. I don't know if he's going to take that discount where he could maybe go somewhere and earn more. If he's not willing to do that, you have to part ways and give up on the season. I don't think there's any way they're making playoffs. As far as Tarasenko, he's been a guy they've talked about trading, and I mean they left him exposed for the expansion draft, for crying out loud. And this I think it's fair to say too, there was a little bit of animosity when he didn't get the C for whatever reason he thought he should. Maybe there was some misconstrued comments coming out of Russia. That was then patched over. But at the end of the day, I don't think that him and the team are necessarily gelling as much as they used to. Part ways with both of them. See what you can get. You have your future set up with Robert Thomas and Kyrou, who have gone through some of growing pains so far this season. You got 8 more years of those guys. Look towards the future. Sell. It ain't your year.
I think they're like caught between with like what they were with the guys you're mentioning that are hurt, and then Kyrou and Thomas that play like this different style, that like puck possession, like wheeler and dealer, and they're not like, it's kind of like, is that the Blues? Like, what are the Blues kind of? So I think they're kind of in the middle of like with their guys. So it's kind of like, where are you going?
But I still thought going into this year, it was like I thought they were. I mean, they gave Colorado the best shot anyone gave them last year. I was like, the Blues could be there right again, and then just
I think they still
it's been one of those years. O'Reilly's offense kind of disappeared. He's now hurt. Binnington was unbelievable. Then he was brutal. It's been the most inconsistent season. Whereas now it's like, the one thing about O'Reilly I'll say is when we talk about Pavelski, maybe not the quickest of feet, but they can think the game. Don't count him out yet as being. I'm not saying a number one like 80-point guy, but he could have a bunch of years
He's
left.
a second-line center on a Stanley Cup winning team.
Exactly. So I'm saying, like, I don't think they're immediately like, oh, we don't want to re-sign him. It's just been such a clusterfuck of a year back and forth that now it's like, what do we do? So tough decisions for Doug Armstrong.
And you talked about the playing styles of having these young running gunners. Berube has won a certain way, so your mind frame will always go back to that, especially in the fact that they do have guys on the roster who helped him win
and
playing
do that
a certain
and play
way.
like that. Yeah.
So sometimes it's very difficult to not only part ways with maybe the way you won, but also reframe your mindset to the way the new NHL is moving. Much like, and I'm not saying they've had success doing it, like a team like Toronto, like the way that they incorporate their D and doing that. I also would probably look to move Parenko too if you're looking to sell. Why the fuck are you guys laughing? Because I mentioned Toronto again?
Because you're mentioning a team that's had no success when it matters.
I'm talking about
years.
the way that they're playing offense and how it's like a beautiful butterfly in the offensive zone just flapping around. I know they haven't had success, but it's still beautiful as shit, Whit.
I know what you're saying. Stylistically.
Parenko's another guy, and who I'm thinking of the old Montreal Canadiens defenseman. He's won everything.
Larry Robertson or Serge Savard?
Yeah, Larry Robertson. Like, he was there helping out Parenko when they were there through that cup run, and he's not there anymore. So sometimes that voice, like helping you maybe be a little bit meaner in front of the net and adding those little intangibles to what was making Parenko play to that top level, I think he's missing it a little bit, and I could see them parting ways with him too.
Guys, I have a quick confession. So I don't know if you guys remember, but during the Western Conference preview, I ripped on the Blues and was like, I don't think they make the playoffs. I think this is the end of the Blues run.
It's kind of like you pumping your own
Listen, this was bad, though. You guys ripped on me so bad after I made that Blues prediction. I just cut the whole thing out. I cut my whole prediction. I cut my whole prediction out.
No, you didn't.
I'm like, and I was like, right after I cut it, I'm like, they're going to not make the playoffs now. And I'm in this exact moment that I'm saying right now is going to happen. And I
think maybe,
but it's funny.
Maybe I should start editing the pod. And
I was going to say, you're not allowed to do that. Anything said, you can't just cut out without telling us.
I know.
But I say stupid shit all the time.
And you always call me at 2 a.m. though, and you're like, gee, you got to help me out, bro. You got to help me out.
I said, I think last week I want to say Connor might have 2 years left, and I try to correct myself. Little shit like that. yes, I say, hey, if there's anything I said that's really dumb, maybe save me. But I don't care if you take it out, I guess.
Hey, but we pumped G's tires enough. That was a classic, Granelli. Like, hey, guys, I'm so dumb. I said the exact thing that's happening, but I cut it out. Like, he just decided to let us know
100%.
he was right, but
100%.
also cut it out. So
have you completely lost the audio?
Oh, no, we still have it. I could definitely cut it and play it. I
Oh,
could play
he
it.
will.
Why don't I play it right now?
What's the best at Sorry, what's the best at calling guys out though?
No, Gans is the best of all
Yeah.
time. We didn't even bring up when Walsh was telling the Brophy story. He mentioned like 45 times how hot the coffee was, and all of a sudden
He goes,
Gans
"That coffee
is like,
hot?"
Was that coffee hot? The crowd actually like erupted laughing. He's like, "Fuck you."
I'm
You wanna play
interested.
that sound?
I'm interested to hear the clip. Let's play it right now, Grinnell.
I'll make it quick. In the Central, I have Colorado, Minnesota, and Nashville in that order. In the Pacific, I have the Oilers, the Flames, and Vegas in that order. For the wild card, I have Vancouver and Los Angeles, and I don't have the St. Louis Blues making the playoffs this season.
What?
I do not.
The St.
Wow.
Louis Blues?
I do not.
That's
Oh, my God.
Are you in Dahmer's legitimate old apartment getting drugged by like a copycat killer of his?
Red rum.
It's coming to an end. Their run in here is coming to an end.
You're out of your mind.
Their consistency, they just haven't been consistent over the past few years. It's just like, I don't know. I think it's coming to an end here.
Wow, man, no balls cutting that out. No balls.
Yeah, it's tough. That's a tough look for me.
But in the end, everything was coming up Granelli. He was right.
Anything else that you know that we should talk about?
Tonight's lottery number?
I'd say no.
He's
No,
like,
I'll
I
probably
said
just cut
that.
it.
Where should me and RA's mom have our wedding?
Greatest bar.
Dad,
Greatest bar.
Imagine.
Papa Busy instead of Uncle Busy Boy.
Yeah,
Papa
you're grounded.
No, I'm not. Fuck you, Dad.
Biz is like, give me all your weed, RA. You're done. I'm smoking it.
To wrap up on the Blues, you gotta remember Montgomery's gone. That was a big. You see how good he's doing in Boston. He's not there this year. So.
Oh, guys, we didn't mention too.
I like that. That's a great nugget.
We had Monty in this room. Great interview. I'm going to say about 45, 50 minutes. Went over his career as a player a little bit and how he got into coaching. Crazy story involving Quenneville. That was kind of a cool aspect. We'll save that. And the next day, one of the best interviews we've ever had. An hour and a half with Big Z, Zdeno Chara. We've been waiting for that to happen. We got to thank his agent, Matt Cater. Really helped hooking it up. He sat in with us for a little bit. I'm going to say right now, and then we'll leave it alone, the first 45 minutes of the Zdeno Chara interview is some of the most amazing audio you'll ever hear. I'm telling you, it makes you want to be a better person, a better player, any aspect of life he wants you to improve at. And in the end, made us feel like the biggest bags of shit of all time.
It almost made me go work out.
But just inspirational, like nothing I've ever heard before. He was getting emotional even just describing his life as a youth in the game to us. So I think you guys should be super excited to hear that one. Bruins haters or not, you'll love it.
Yeah, if you're a hockey parent, listen very attentively and play it for your kid as well, because this is just an incredible come-up story and a guy who most NHL games
by a defenseman
in the regular season.
Yeah, I think all together.
I thought Chelios had him by a few. But
I
whatever.
heard some
Oh yeah,
lunatic.
Chelios with the playoffs. So yeah, you're right.
I
Sorry.
heard some lunatic, quickly off topic, hockey parent scenario this past week in Massachusetts. This woman, her daughter was playing in a game. Now she's on a team with boys, and I guess some kid. I think they're nine years old. And I guess the woman was like a really successful college soccer player. Like, I don't even know the lady's name. I saw her picture. Well, her daughter got like bumped into, and after the end of the game, she's waiting at the door for the kid who like ran into her daughter and takes him and slams him against the boards and was like choking the kid out, and then ended up peeling out of the parking lot. Like, she'll probably get arrested. She should, for pushing a fucking 9-year-old kid. Just crazy parents. You guys are nuts.
She went full Dana White on him.
Sorry, guys.
All right. Old teammate Whit, Sam Gagne played his 1,000th game last week versus Vancouver. 6th-round pick in 07. He's the 357th player to hit 1,000 games.
I'm so happy for Gags. And what's really cool is that this is a guy, I think 2 different teams maybe 3, but I think 2 have ended up sending him, and he spent time in the minors throughout the way. And this is a high pick, and he came into Edmonton probably looking at and thinking of having a career as a point-per-game guy. And, like, listen, when he was young, and he still has crazy hands. You remember him dominating the shootouts. He was so good and tight around the goalie. But more than anything, a great guy. I loved the time I spent with him. And at that time, he was, trying to be a first-line player, second-line player. And as the career's gone on, right, it's changed, and he ended up having a great role with Columbus when they had that run and beat Tampa, and then he's been in Philly. He's been on a bunch of different teams. But like we've mentioned before, with a ton of different guys, he's changed his game. He's realized what he has to do to stay in the NHL. And even doing that, there was times he was down in the minors, grinded it out, didn't complain, didn't talk about woe is me. Like, just a guy who probably learned from his father, who had a super long career as well, what it takes to be a pro. And I had so much fun with him. He's a great storyteller. We're going to get him on at some point after he retires. We had him. Oh, no. After he retires, we're going to get him on again is what I meant.
But he did talk about how close him and his father were during his like when he was coming up through his career, and all the advice that his old man had given him. So you mentioned all the adjustments and changing roles. And I'm sure he had a guy to lean on in his old man for
and
that.
There's a reason, like, he's been brought into teams, because they know, like, if you're a team that needs to maybe, like, switch some things around in the room, which Winnipeg talked about this summer, he's a guy that's always in a good mood, and he's always showing up. He's a father of 3 now, I think. So congratulations, Gags. What a run.
Awesome guy. And his dad, Dave Gagne, I just looked it up, 946 games. So he's got
So he got him beat.
Got dad
Suck
beat.
on that, old man.
Yeah, I got to meet him too. He's just like a positive, happy, great guy. Met him and his wife. So
him and
you know the
Cogs.
wives that go through that grind too. And he's jumping teams all over and
him
bragging
and
his family.
Cogliano, they came in together, and the careers went a little different than I think they thought them. First round picks, but what a run for both of them.
Yeah, and he had that 5-goal game in Edmonton years ago.
He
Remember
had
that? That was like
in an 8-point game.
8-point game. He was like on the hunt.
Yeah, that was a crazy night. I'll never forget that.
Connor Bedard did something like that recently.
We'll get to him in 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
I want to say congrats to 2018 Stanley Cup winner Devontae Smith-Pelly. He officially retired the other day, announced it on Instagram. Absolute goal-scoring stud for that Caps team. 7 goals on that run, played in all 24 games.
He had 7 goals when they won that playoff?
7 goals on a couple of fucking monster
He was
ones.
so good.
He was good. He got 446 regular season and playoff games with the Caps, Habs, Devils, and Ducks. And he made sure to thank Joe Ward, Wayne Simmons, Chris, and Anthony Stewart for leading the way for his generation, and said he hoped he did the same for young kids, young black kids who looked up to him, and he left a great legacy. So we want to tell him enjoy retirement, enjoy your best wishes, whatever comes next. Either you guys know him or play with him?
Yeah, I skated with him at BioSteel quite a bit. Just an awesome guy and like part of that whole workout group. So just a pleasure to be around, and congrats on an awesome career. And man, like you mentioned the contribution during that cup run, man. He was one of those pieces. Was he picked up close to the deadline that year, or had he been there the whole season?
I think where was he in Montreal, and then he got like traded there or something at the deadline?
That's one of those deals that it ends up happening around the deadline. If it did. But it's like, that's nice depth, and then boom, that type of guy ends up getting 7 goals on the run.
And
to
we
the cup.
need more.
The
guys
minor
like
deals around the deadline. Oh, and he might have not even been that, but those are always the deals that end up being the big one. Manson last year in Colorado,
The Finnish guy from Lekkinen.
Boom.
That was a huge one.
It's always the guy who you're like, that's a nice pickup.
He signed in the offseason.
Yeah, he was placed on waivers by the Devils, and then in the offseason he signed with.
So that discussion made no sense.
Yeah, so we're going to go against.
I gotta say this.
Just save that for deadline show.
I wish we had more guys like him that play like him, because he could score. He was big, but like he could pound bodies too. Like he's a big kid, and like his role there, and when he went there to add to the big body kind of game that they had, he changed it. But then he was producing too. So it's like, how do you not love a guy like that? Congrats on a great career, bud.
Fucking rights.
Bedard time for you, Biz. First off, Canada's going to play the U.S. in the semis, and Sweden's going to take on Czechia. But Bedard, he's got 21 points in 5 games, the most by a Canadian in a single tourney. 15 goals in 14 World Junior games, the most by a Canadian. 32 points, the most by a Canadian at the World Juniors. He had 7 points versus Germany. I mean, this kid fucking obviously going to be a stud. But Merles, you're the junior guy. What's going to go on in these semis here?
Yeah, Sweden, my guy Leo Carlsson, don't forget about him. He had 2 goals in the quarterfinal game. They came back and beat Finland. So I like Sweden to win that game, and then Canada, they're unbeatable, I think. I don't think they're gonna lose again. So they're gonna roll over our Americans. But
I like Czechia. Czechia's big. They hang on to pucks. They play like Canadian-style hockey.
And that D-man's from Columbus.
The D-man's sick.
Want to make a little wager on that, Army?
I don't want to. Not with Mr. EBR. Hell no. The cool thing about your stats on Bedard and how great he's been at World Juniors is like, if you see it like on how many games he's played also, he's played like half as many games as like Lindros and those guys too. He's played like 15 games and he's got 32 points. I believe. Am I wrong?
Insane.
And
if you are, we'll cut it.
Yeah. I
Right,
sent out a tweet last night, maybe a little inebriated, so maybe, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm kind of sticking with it. And I mentioned I think it's going to be hard to deny the fact that we're looking at a Crosby, Ovechkin, McDavid-like generational talent. And what he's doing, like these numbers, all of a sudden you see these names he's passing by. It's like, how are we supposed to deny the fact this kid, I think he shoots the puck like Matthews. I think he sees the ice in the game like a similar way to Crosby. He's so dynamic. People kind of came at me, his size, I don't know. But either way, even if it's like Patrick Kane, like I just mean that you see generational players.
I have an inversion table at
once
my
every
apartment.
10 years. And it's like, I know it hasn't been 10 years since McDavid came in the league, but it's getting up there. And now you got this kid coming, and it's going to be one of those lotteries the same way when Pittsburgh won the lottery with Crosby. It's like, this is a game changer. This is changing an entire franchise overnight. And R.A. made the great point. R.A. said to me, after what happened with the Chicago Blackhawks and that whole thing, they ain't getting the first overall pick. And I think when the vote goes down and Tempe decides to get an arena, I think with Arizona being Gary's baby, he will be a Coyote next season.
I know he will. I talked to Gary yesterday.
They have never won the lottery. They've never had the first overall pick. They're getting a rink built. Connor Bedard to Arizona, and what an amazing thing that will be for that city and that franchise.
So you're on board with that now?
He's going to Arizona. RA is 100% right.
Oh, wow. We get that in a frame.
There's
I just got tased.
There's 3 teams, right?
What?
Anaheim, Chicago, Arizona. Right?
Yeah. I mean, Columbus, who knows? Like, they're horrible. I just think I think when you say things are rigged, this one, he's going to Arizona.
There's a reason all these GMs are tanking, but I know these guys that fucking season. Yeah,
I have a full.
Let's see what Philly does too.
I have a full raging boner right now after Whit just spoke. I don't have any blood in my body other than my cock right now, so you can keep moving along.
It's still only 3 inches.
I mean, that pretty much wraps up all the hockey stuff. This was a pretty cool story someone sent on Twitter. A Scottish couple visited Alberta for their honeymoon, dog. They made sure to hit up Red Deer because they heard about it on Spittin Chiclets. So congrats to Richard and Lindsay Gray of Scotland who went to Red Deer on their honeymoon.
You guys are tapped.
Because they heard it on Spittin Chiclets. How about that?
Oh, my goodness. That is just...
I wonder if they saw my picture hanging in the lobby at the arena. There.
That's right. You're a Red Deer Rebel legend.
Memorial Cup boys, yeah. And goal-scoring legend at outdoor games, all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, you still currently hold the record, actually.
I hold the record. Yeah, I hold the record. 21 seconds in, still got it last night. Thanks for the support, boys. It's great doing it with you guys, being there. And
every January 1st or 2nd when that game gets played, after 21 seconds, you don't give a fuck what happens.
That's like the only time I tweet. Still got it.
The only other real big note here, soccer great Pele passed away at 82. What's our soccer correspondent?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of this one, it's tough considering I started watching soccer about 18 months ago. But I did see a cool tweet. Cool tweet from Haaland, who's the guy, this legendary Norwegian on Man City. He's just like the best player in the world right now, maybe. He said anything you've ever seen done on a soccer pitch, Pele did it first. And I feel like the guy did a ton after his career in soccer with like humanitarian things and just helping people forever. Actually, Horkoff, he sent me a picture. Him and Danny Cleary were in the Hamptons with their wives one weekend just to play golf. And they went into this little like 20-person restaurant and Pele was sitting in there. So they got pictures with him and said he was the nicest guy ever to talk to. So just a true legend in sport. And so rest in peace, Pele. What a fucking run.
Yeah, just like a juggernaut of a human being. You mentioned like the humanitarian.
3 World Cups he got.
3 World Cups, and in Brazil they did 3 days of mourning.
Really?
For his passing. Yeah. Like that just tells you the impact not only on his country but just around the world. And obviously with soccer being the biggest sport, but like when you're when you have that type of impact and you're that popular of a person, when you show like the gratitude and like the humanitarian aspect, it just goes so much further, and it's such a good example for the guys that follow. So just a juggernaut of a human being, and it's a devastating loss to the world.
Well, I think the thing about his story too, and maybe you know this too, is like he came from like wicked bad poverty too, to like to stardom and like, a world hero almost, and with his talent. So his story is also really cool because of what he's done all the way, helping people along the way as well, coming from like, this really rough upbringing in part of the world where he came from too. So if you haven't read anything on him in his past and like what he did off the pitch or off the field, he's a pretty amazing guy too.
I think we'd be due maybe for one of those unreal HBO Sports Netflix documentaries on his life. I don't know if one's out there. I haven't heard of it, but that would be pretty sick to see old clips of him
especially
playing.
for this generation to understand the impact.
Yeah, because he came to America. Like, I mean, he was like in his 40s or whatever the league was in the 70s, the New York Cosmos. And he helped put soccer on the map way back then. And you ever see that movie, Victory? It's Pele, Sylvester Stallone, and Michael Caine. They're prisoners of war, and they have to play a soccer game.
He got into acting?
Oh, I mean, I don't know how many movies he did, but yeah, it was a soccer movie. Like Stallone, Michael Caine, and Pele. They were in POWs, and they had to play a soccer game. I think it was versus the Germans. And I've never spoiled movies. You can check it out. But yeah,
they're like, Sylvester, can you put the dumbbells down, please? We're trying to play a soccer game.
The only video I saw that came out with this too, I don't know, would Wayno say anything? Remember there's like a race and
that's what I was going to talk.
We talked about that with Wayno. It was Bjorn Borg,
Pele,
Wayne, and
Sugar Ray,
and Wayne
Gretzky destroyed them.
Gretzky came out just buzzing.
I think he had a false start like I did against the Cow on my trip this summer when
You're still wanted in Calgary by those fans.
Well, I cost them what I cost them? 50%
chicken sandwich or something, right?
Or some Chick-fil-A. A couple
free hot dogs
at the stand.
I think that's it, boys. I think we can wrap it here. Again, tremendous support this week, and everybody who came to the show, came out to see us. We love you guys and gals. It's been a fucking joy to do this. It's going to continue to be a joy. And again, thanks to everybody, my family, friends who came out. I love all you guys and gals. It was a very special night, a great tribute, and I love you all.
Love you too, R.A.
Thank you, Boston.
Like I love you. I love you like a son.
Fuck you, Dad.
What an ending. Thank you, everyone. Love you all. Peace.